Hey, this is Zoe Thorogood, creator of It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
It sounds a little bit excited. Do you know something that I don't know?
I don't know nothing. Apart from the course.
I just pulled out my bucket list, and I got that big old thick-ass dick-sized Sharpie, and I went and crossed off one of the things.
Tip. Yep.
Crossed it off. You don't have to stop talking. You could just not talk about that.
What was going on here?
Jeebus.
Good old Tony. Hey everybody, you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 876, and I am an incredibly blessed Vince B.
You are. I am I'm pinching myself. I can't believe what just happened, David A. Price.
Well, I like that. I like him. And because
actually,
that's that's silence.
That's true. Yeah, because somebody is. It's a weird episode, folks. You are going to hear from Jason, just not right this second. But we do have somebody who's going to say hi to you.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tony Fleece. Also humbled to be here. Also, just a student, sitting at the feet of the master today.
For real.
And if you haven't noticed already, Tony sounds a hell of a lot better.
Hardwired Fleece, baby. I'm committed now. I'm going to be sitting in this poor chair. You know who doesn't have a hardwire? Tana Ford.
You don't know that.
Uh-oh. Are you throwing the gauntlet down?
I'm throwing it down. You know she's on Wi-Fi.
I'm the tester.
And you can fire up your Wi-Fi and go to cheapgraphicnovels.com. That's cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's all in the name. You can get omnibus, trade editions, manga for a fraction of their cover price. Go on over there and look for books by Howard Chaykin because they have Satellite Sam Omnibus for $31.49. That's 30% off the retail price. They also have Black Kiss 2 for $10.49 and Power and Glory for $13.49. Both of those are 30% off. They have Hey Kids comics, like all the Chaykin stuff, at a fraction of the cover price. So go to cheapgraphicnovels.com and save. And after you're done with your first order, reply to the email confirmation and tell them that 11 O'Clock Comics sent you, and you will receive free shipping on your next order. It is an incredible deal. You're welcome. Just go take advantage of it. cheapgraphicnovels.com.
You know what they also have at cheapgraphicnovels.com right now, because I saw Max last weekend and I handed him a case of Time Shoppers. So cheapgraphicnovels.com, one of the few places online right now, along with like my website and Stuart Ing, but one of the most discounted places online right now where you can get Time Shopper because I handed him off personally. So if you have listened to me on this show and you're like, that guy's all right, let me see about his least popular book.
Oh, so this is.
Oh wait,
I
thought you were thinking that Max was all right, because Max is more than all right with me.
Well, no,
Max is beyond all right.
Yeah, well, he sent me we were talking through email about business stuff, and he's like, "Oh, not for nothing, but I've been dabbling in the vinyl kaiju myself. Here's a shot of my Hedora collection." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, he has some pieces in there that if I lived near him, he wouldn't have them anymore."
He's a real collector.
He is.
Hard on collections. He gets into stuff.
He's like, "What do you think of these?" I was like, "My dude, they are awesome." He likes to. There's some glitter vinyl in the collection. I'm not a fan of glitter vinyl, and I'm also not a fan of clear.
Sure.
But the en masse, his Hedora collection is wonderful. Yes.
Well, I hope Max enjoys this.
Well. Tony's little plug there was pretty timely and topical. I sent Tony a text earlier today, and on the days my wife and I drive into the office, after the commute, before we head to our offices, our separate offices, we decompress a little bit and we'll scroll through some TikToks. And one of the videos that came up today was a very touching and poignant clip of a creator basically pitching us his little Time Shopper comic book. And as we're watching it, and Renee recognizes the name, and she's like, "This sounds familiar," and Tony mentions that he's also the writer of Stray Dogs. And she's like, "Oh, he wrote Stray Dogs," like that little, "Oh, it's him." But then, as he's describing Time Shopper, she's sitting here cracking up at the description and at the characters and how my man meets Tupac, and she's just like, "Oh, I'd read this." So I have to hit up Max now and order a copy of Time Shopper. Because I failed to back it when I checked my Kickstarter activity from way back when, and I said, and that was my text to Tony. He's like, I was like, I could have sworn I backed that damn thing, but I guess not.
So Tony,
making Life Comics, people know this about me. I haven't heard this about Time Shopper before, but if this turns out to be also a Life comic, I'm going to be very happy to hear that. I'm very excited to see how this goes.
Okay.
So now you know Tony, who really loves you, because I have a copy of Time Shopper.
You got it on the Kickstarter. That's all right. I know you all love me, and I appreciate the support and love. You guys had me on here to talk about Time Shopper probably 3 times.
Yes.
You did way more than enough on that book. Very appreciated.
It was enjoyable, to say the least. Yeah. And what are we drinking? Speaking of enjoying.
Oh, man. What are you drinking, Vince?
I'm just drinking blackberry lemonade.
What are you drinking, Tony?
Water.
I didn't go out and buy anything, so I had the last 2 beers in my fridge. I had a Modelo Especial, like a giant can of it.
Wow. That's good shit.
And then that was while we were talking to Chaykin, and then now I'm having a Tecate. I can't even remember when I bought this, but it tastes fine, so it must be within the past year.
Fancy. I was enjoying a very, very good gin and tonic while we were talking with Howard, and now that this is gone, I'm going back to my big ass jug of water.
Nice. Well, you've been waiting for it patiently as we rambled through that, and here it is. Here is our discussion with the legendary. I think that's a fair assessment, right?
Yes.
Legend. He has an ego, as he said during the interview, and I'm just gonna give that ego a big old bear hug. The legendary Howard Chaykin. This man doesn't need an introduction. If you've been reading comics for any amount of time, you have inevitably encountered his work, and it all is amazing. Legendary creator Howard Chaykin is with us this week.
Welcome, sir.
Let's all calm down right now. Okay, let's not get excited. And again, the very fact that I have to take issue with what you said, because much of my work sucked. I unfortunately went to public school with the first 10 years of my career, and so the world has seen me go from being an inept and untrained amateur to a working professional. And frankly, has never forgiven me for it. So I'm willing to live with that.
There's a lot of wiggle room. And
look, I got so fat recently that wiggle is just something. The word wiggle just says horrible things to me.
I think you look very good, but
no, I'm an unmade bed.
Okay. Well, for those of you playing at home, Howard is here to tell us about his forthcoming book. His first foray into crowdfunding on Zoop. It's called John Benteen's Fargo, Hell on Wheels.
And I'm here to, basically the history of this project, it's harking back to a big interest in my stuff from the 60s. And oddly enough, I was unaware of this particular work at that point. I was a real consumer of paperback originals back then. And this was a 20-book series that was around in the late 60s, early 70s, when there was still public transportation and people took buses and trains to get to jobs. And these books were made to be read in say 4 days of subway riding or 2 long bus trips. They are compact, tight, and specifically, Neil Fargo, the hero of the novels, is loosely based on the character that Lee Marvin played in Richard Brooks' brilliant film, The Professionals. And what John Benteen did was to create a backstory and a career for this guy, give him a new name, and build this character. And in its simplest terms, Neil Fargo is Conan. If Conan had rode with Pike Bishop and Dutch and the Gorsh brothers in the Wild Bunch in 1910. He's a roustabout, circus performer, boxer, bouncer at brothels, soldier of fortune, ran up San Juan Hill with Teddy Roosevelt, and is just a guy who constantly finds himself in trouble and gets out of it. He's that great traditional ball-busting American hero, a 19th century man, loose and on the loose in the early 20th century. The novels were sold as westerns in their original format, and there's a western tinge to the material, but they have as much in common with Alistair MacLean as they do with Louis L'Amour, and they're a gas. I mean, when you called, I had just finished my work day, where I was doing a copy edit on my first dialogue pass. The book is now written, and I'm working on the art. That's what's happening. I'm a cockeyed optimist. I'm just assuming it's going forward as if it's going to happen, whether it happens or not. That's the only way I can function.
It looks like it's going to happen. It's available on Zoop. You can obviously pre-order it. We will definitely have the links for everything in our show notes when the episode's posted in a few hours. It's as of we're talking right now, 22 days left. So you got a couple weeks, and I know that you were pretty much not keen on crowdfunding. So what caused you to change your mind and go with Zoop, or at least this particular project with Fargo?
An attenuated moment of weakness. The guy brought me in on this project, a guy named Mike Stratford. Mike's a really good friend. He's I count my friends on only a couple of hands. And Mike is someone that, he's some of my calls I always take. And Mike introduced me to this material. He's a guy, we were introduced by Mike Kaluta many, many years ago. For those of you who don't know who Michael Kaluta is, shame on you.
Big shame.
And,
Yes.
And Mike and I have extraordinarily similar tastes. I mean, I've turned him on to stuff. He turned me on to see. I'm the guy who introduced him to Lee Child, for example. That should give you an idea how long I've known this cat. And he was the one who showed me this material, and he said, "Let's do it." And it was kind of like, "I'll believe if you believe. I'll go with you," and that's where it's at. So I don't know. I mean, I'm still, I'm paranoid, and I mean, 20 minutes ago, I was on the phone with my editor, who suggested that I go on Facebook and make a blunt statement that any one of my Facebook friends who does not sign on for this is dead to me.
I mean, I'm looking at the there's obviously we've got contributions by Gary Frank, Mahmoud Asrar, who we just saw last weekend at New York, Dennis Cohen, Eduardo Rizzo.
Eduardo Rizzo, for Christ's sake, right?
Yes.
Eduardo said no, and then all of a sudden the artwork turns into, holy shit, Eduardo. And Mahmoud is one of the stand-uppiest cats ever.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah,
yes.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Mahmoud was a member of the last seminar that I did at Marvel back in 2014, I think it was. And it was one of those groups where they would dump 5 guys on me. Marvel would do this, who they felt were not living up to their responsibilities to their contract for whatever reason. And my job was to beat the shit out of them for 3 days. And Mahmoud was along with 4 other cats who were not in that category. I don't know what the hell Marvel was. I mean, they didn't need anything I had to say. So we did a road trip. We said, listen, here, you've got an assignment. Do the assignment tonight. Let's piss off the afternoon and take a walk. We'll just get out of the office. So we did, and I brought them all the illustration stations across New York City. Mahmoud, Vittorio Schiti, what's his name? Will Sliney, a couple of others. And I brought them to the Eastern Airlines mural at number 8 Rockefeller Plaza. I took them to the Warwick Hotel, which used to be the Raleigh Hotel, to show them the Dean Cornwell murals. the Maxfield Parrish painting of the King Cole Bar at the St. Regis, and ultimately up to the Society of Illustrators, where Richard Geisman was there, and he took us all upstairs into the stacks, and he was pulling paintings out that hadn't seen the light of day in 25 years. He was showing them, Leyendeckers, Rockwells, Fawcett's, Parker. It's just, an astonishing collection.
Jesus.
And so I was really grateful Mahmoud was able to come in, because he's just doing some great shit. He's just great.
And he keeps continually getting better and better.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, what? Stop. Cut that shit out.
How dare he?
Yeah.
We are brothers here. How dare he indeed? Enough of this. Cut it out. I'm up to here with you. I'm making the gesture of cutting my throat with my hands. Right. I'm up to here with you. It's like your mom.
Speaking of brothers, I'm assuming that Ken Bruzenak is going to be doing the lettering on the forthcoming.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Well, he did the logo. That's Ken's logo, and Bruzenak and I are co-pains in the ass. We've known each other. I've known Ken since 71. We've worked together since 82. Yeah, well, he was Steranko's boy. I was Neil's.
Yeah.
We hated each other the minute we met. Like, get the fuck out of here with you. And when I was looking for a letter on Flagg, Joe Duffy recommended him. He'd apparently been up to the office looking for work, and I took a look at his book. I said, yeah, I mean, let's do this. And what I got back from him, the dynamic of my relationship with Ken is I will always get more from him than I expect. It will 99% of the time it will be perfect. That 1% it'll be completely out of left field and no. And the second draft is perfect. But Ken is a perfect example of a guy whose entire career is based on having worked with me on Flagg and then Times Square. And he gets hired by people who don't have the smarts, wherewithal, or instincts to get him to do for them what he does for me. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to work together after, going on 50 years now. Because I let Ken be Ken. And, he gets to try shit. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it often, anecdotally, I'm diverging, I'm digressing. Deal with me. When I wrote the script of The Divided States of Hysteria, I indicated that I wanted some sort of graphic representation of what was then a current term, a phrase that was running around the internet called internet chatter, which was supposed to mean that they were listening in to terrorism. Okay, what I was expecting was a graphic button, an inset of some sort. What I got instead was this full court press of graphic gibberish that covered the pages that really enhanced the experience in a way that no one had ever thought about or seen before, and that's Ken. So yes, the answer is yes. Ken and I will work together.
Excellent. I think, in addition to John Workman, whose stuff I love, Ken's work was one of the first and only instances when I experienced his mojo and thought, man, this guy is contributing as much or more to the book as the very illustrator.
Right. The fact you're right. Exactly.
And I can pinpoint the exact time. It was with a first page of Black Kiss when the phone's ringing and all of the text is just, well, I don't have to tell you, you did it. And I thought, holy crap, this is amazing. These guys are working in tandem. It's almost like sex, and for that book, it's very appropriate to say that. But
but you see, Ken is a perfect example of the fact that many writers tend to regard letterers as delivery systems for text.
Right,
and that is more that is incredibly reductive.
Mm-hmm.
The letterer in comics, at its best and its most perfect sense, should be part of, and this is where I get pretentious, so bear with me, the narrative graphic experience. It has a lettering in comics should have a three-dimensional an implicitly three-dimensional relationship with the artwork. That it should be it's not simply it exists in context with the imagery. That you can use lettering in comics to enhance and create deep space. And Ken does that all the time.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I can assume that you, like myself, detest canned fonts.
I have no idea what that is. What's that?
Just computer type.
Oh, I don't give a shit. When I say that, I mean that because everything has its contextual place. there was a fiat laid out at DC Comics many years ago in the Vertigo line that we were no longer allowed to use thought balloons in the context of material, which struck me at the time and continues to strike me as a dangerous precedent, in that it takes a trope which is, intrinsic to the material and has been intrinsic to the material since Word One, and just dismisses it as a non-realistic idea, that as if comic books themselves are realistic ideas.
Right.
And in writing Fargo, I literally spent a day working draft about whether or not to use thought balloons, and I did not. I ended up not, because I realized that the way the story itself tells itself, it was unnecessary, because what he's doing doesn't have to be enhanced by text. Whereas in one of the two additional back matter pieces that we're about to deliver the final color on for the trade paperback of Volume 3 of Hey Kids Comics, there's a 2-panel sequence where thought balloons were the only way to convey what was being felt and seen contextually in the material. And my editor responded to this. He says, "Wow!" And I said, "Well, it was the right thing to do, because characters don't talk to themselves." And I did not want to get to that pretentious caption as internal narrative, internal monologue. That just has always struck me as astonishingly pretentious and distancing from the actual graphic experience of comics.
I like that.
Without them, you're always looking for somebody for the character to be talking to, or something. Like you have to stretch to figure out a way around it, rather than just doing the most direct thing.
Right. Well, Fargo. I mean, there are a number of sequences in the book where Fargo acts alone. I mean, he's a loner. There's no Jimmy Olsen in this book. There's no Robin, and so basically, I had to do the equivalent of what Harvey Kurtzman was doing at the War Books, which is a very methodical journalistic approach to the material. There are a number of places in the book where I've applied the Kurtzman technique of this, just the mechanical following through of action and behavior. The loading of a gun, the cleaning of a weapon, the construction of a device, things like that. And the best way to do that is to neutralize the graphics and to do it diagrammatically. I've always said that, you can learn a great deal about doing comics from looking at pictographs, from looking at the way there's a guy named Richard Saul Werman, who was a cartographer and designer, who in the 1980s did a series of books called Access, which were an attempt to recreate and rethink the way tour guides looked. And I was fascinated with the way he did these drawings that were exploded 3-dimensional drawings of historic sites. And that's a really interesting thing. How can I use this? That sort of thing. So you go through passages of this sort of stuff, and frankly, it's Kurtzman's approach that is most effective. I mean, one of the things I'm doing this on the 18th of November. I'm doing a thing with Mark Wade at UCLA at Ackerman Hall. We're doing something we're calling Comic Book U, where Mark will handle the writing part and I will handle the real part, which is the taking what the writer has given and making it work. And one of the things I talk about there is the neutrality of size and shape. When you choose specifically, when you are very deliberate about the size of panels you use and the relationship of size to panel to panel to panel, you are telling your reader something that by not paying specific attention to the size you're doing, you might be contradicting rather what you're trying to tell them. This is getting a bit arcane, but trust me on this is my day-to-day considered experience.
Interesting. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff to think about in there. For many years, you existed, for me anyway, as a consumer of comic books, as just the guy that made that beautiful art. And there wasn't a whole lot of commentary of your words outside of the narratives. But I was going through old books in preparation for this, and I pulled out Cyberella, of all things. Mm-hmm. And you were very vocal in the back pages of that book which I thought was amazing. And the one little snippet that I latched onto was when you address the reader, and you're just like, basically said, I don't care if you don't like this. This is what we're doing, because comic shops are filled with basically garbage. And this is what we want to do. We want to do it the way we want to do it. Why should we play it safe? And produce work that is in tandem with all the other work that's out there. This book is going to be different. If you like it, that's great. If you don't, so what? This is what we want to make. And I thought that's such a confident approach to the art that you rarely see in comics. You always get the same glad handing. Oh, hope you love this. We put a lot of energy into it. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But you basically said, this is what it is. Like it or not, we're making this book. And I love that out of you. I thought that was, you've endeared yourself to me through your art for decades, but that, you won me over 100% with that.
Well, I mean, I've never had a really strong commercial footprint. You know, the most commercial book I've ever done was the Star Wars book, which has more to do with the fact that it's Dead Sea Scrolls, the original. It's the Old Testament of a secular religion, and the work I did on it wasn't very good. So it's not the work I did there is not being judged on the quality of my craft, but rather on what it represents for $1 billion secular church franchise. So the work that I've done professionally has always demanded more of the audience than most people have done. I'm not particularly interested in coddling, pandering, or patronizing.
Yes.
I'm not that good at it. You know, I recognized the fact early on that I was never going to be a great superhero artist, that I didn't have the moral conviction to put aside to do superhero books, and that I like genre material, and I grew up reading science fiction and Sword and Planet and Sword and Sorcery stories, and I was wooed away from that material by Archie Goodwin, who introduced me to everything from Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler, Richard Stark, Donald Westlake, and Greg Stout. And that stuff has always struck me as the key to why I write and think the way I do. And I mean, I read mainstream fiction, I read genre fiction, and I've often described myself as being too weird for the mainstream and too mainstream for the weird. Right now, there's a major promotional push for Daniel Close's new book. And every time I see it promoted, I said, I'm reminded nostalgically of my one face-to-face meeting with Close, where I came away feeling completely insulted and disdained by and condescended to by him. And like, God, geez, it's like I'm sorry I'm alive. But then of course I remember that I'm pretty condescending, disdainful myself. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, I guess. I have to, if I'm gonna dish it out, I might as well learn to take it as well.
That's something I always thought was interesting about your work, though, is that you've always been pretty vocal about sort of like a disdain for the sort of like entry level superhero nonsense, but you also seem completely in love with like not entry level, but just like that for pulp or genre nonsense.
I do.
And well, I know what you intake is sort of way more literary than that. What stops you from just going full literary?
I'm not that good at it. My work is I'm a cartoonist. I mean, the work that I do is a synergy, a synthesis of words and pictures. It's the pictures and the text that make it work. I'm not the best draftsman. I'm not the best writer, but together the two things together make for an interesting package. My wife has been hawking me for years to write a novel with no real understanding of the actual level of effort required. I'm a comic book man. I love the idea of being a comic book man. I like getting up in the morning. I sit down at my desk. I mean, right now I'm writing, so I haven't done this. Tomorrow night I'm doing a live art thing, and that'll be the first drawing I've done in about a week. And I like the process of solving problems. That's really what it's about. I don't read comics anymore, but I certainly like making them, and the process of making them gives me the same kind of pleasure and joy that I once derived from reading them. On the base, a couple people have been posting a number of pieces from Harvey Kurtzman's Humbug, And on the basis of that, I realized it was time for me to revisit it. So I grabbed my slipcase set, brought it upstairs, and put it on my night table. And that's going to be something I'm going to be looking at for the next couple of nights, just to remind myself of what it was that made me care enough about this to make it my life's work. And I'm over 50 years in. I mean, my first credit under my own name, I was 21, and it sucked. That was terrible, but I stuck with it, and when I worked in television, I gained an enormous respect for actors. We give actors shit for their narcissism, for their ridiculous self-regard, but the truth is, they live such a life of constant rejection until and if they get a job that changes their lives. And that, to a certain extent, I started getting rejected for my work when I was 15. I justifiably so. The work was unusable. I mean, comically enough, when I went to work with Gil Kane, I described my samples to him as mediocre. He dismissed them. No, my boy, they're complete shit. Get over it. And, I'm like, whoa, thank you, old person. And so it was a humbling experience. And working with Gil, I came to understand that he had the same career trajectory as I had, but he'd started out shitty. He wasn't as shitty as I was, but he was terrible. I mean, Alex Toth always referred to Gil as he had 3 names and 2 noses, and Toth was just a horrible person, but and Gil was pretty horrible in his own way as well, but I learned a shitload hanging out with those old guys. That was fantastic. I learned. I mean, I got off their bitterness and their disdain for the work, but yet their understanding of craft. And I took shit. Someone reminded me. I did a piece about the getting jumped in London in 1990 over the Black Kiss stuff after Grant Morrison decided that he had the responsibility to tell the world that I sucked dick, and not in a good way. And it was pointed out to me by someone who was there that I created a fervor in the audience when I indicated that I thought the comics were not art, but were craft. And I felt that was not a diminishment of the value of the material. I think comics is craft, and I love that craft. I truly do. I'm grateful. I mean, I'm in my victory lap now. I'm 73 years old, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done for the past 40 of those 50 some odd years. And to a certain extent, I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to make a living doing this shit. It's fantastic. I'm the luckiest bastard walking.
I mean, I'm delighted to have some of your work on my shelves. So I've been not as long as maybe Vince has been, but I've definitely I've been a fan for pretty much as long as I've been reading comics. But I was really looking forward to tonight, not just to hear about the new project, but I mean, we chatted, the three, me, Vince, Jason, we kind of came across one of your tables once at New York Comic Con, and we chatted for a little bit, hoping to get you on the podcast before. But I know that my all-time favorite, if I'm ever asked, anybody from the past that you could have dinner with, Gil Kane is the one comic creator I wish I got to meet and thank for all the enjoyment he's given me over the years, and knowing that you worked with him or for him, however you want to phrase it. It's so there's the 6 degrees of separation here, but I mean, I just to hear about what the kind of person he was beyond the page is making my night.
Complete and total pisser. He was just. I mean, you New York guys?
Yep.
Are you guys New York guys?
I am.
Okay. All right. Gil was like a complete and total aborigine. I mean, he was a savage, an only child, which is really rare of his generation. Mm-hmm. He was gangling it. Well, he reached his adult height at the age of 14. He was a real fucking mutant, and and he was completely insane. He had a nose like a toucan. He looked like an anti-Semitic movie poster, mm-hmm. And he was just horny, hungry, and on the make. And he was motivated by the thing that motivated me, which is to say hunger and then show it rage. And he got a nose job, and he went from being this sort of, hungry, grotesque figure to he transformed himself into a Charles Saxon New Yorker cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the only man I ever know who wore an ascot without in person. Like Basil Rathbone, sure, fucking this Jew from Brooklyn, right?
Right.
And the minute he got a nose job, people who didn't much like him beforehand got to hate him because so much of the dynamic of the social dynamic of those guys of that generation, the guys who were born between 20 and 25, okay, was self-loathing and just complete and total abnegation to the fact that this was the dreariness of their experience was all they deserved. And Gil was on the make and felt that he was entitled to better. I mean, he was also really disappointed when I told him that my generation was not having sex at the drop of a hat, that it was perhaps that the courting process was different, but there was still courting called for. He believed, like so many people do, in the media bullshit about every other generation but their own.
Right.
And I said, no, Gil. I mean, I'm not falling into sex on a daily basis. I have to work at it just like everybody else does, and we all do too. And he was just filled with tics and just odd things going on about it. But he was an incredibly entertaining dinner company. He ate like a child. He had no palate whatsoever. I mean, it's just
wow.
I'm serious. I mean, no bullshit. I mean, the things he would do to a piece of meat would just like he turned into a shoe. It was just horrible. He had to look away when I eat when I order a steak, it's Pittsburgh. Okay, it's like black on the outside, red on the inside. It's got to be running a little bit of blood, that kind of stuff. And he would literally start gagging at my dinner. He spent 2 weeks in Paris with Groth years and years ago, and he had he had omelets at every meal because he was afraid his host would trick him into eating rabbit.
Oh,
I mean, just so this perfect combination of a presentation of sophistication with a barbarian wearing a mask of sophistication, and then many years later, I used the Charles Saxon reference. Saxon did exactly the same thing. Saxon was another guy from the Bronx, I think, who transformed himself from this ghetto Jewish shtetl kid into this Connecticut Brahmin. And again, just to take off the edge here, he was as guilty of everything he's been accused of as trust me, he was a liar, a cheat, and a thief, but incredibly entertaining and incredibly engaging. And I'm assuming you've read some of the anecdotes I've told on Facebook.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
I mean, the whole thing with when Frank Giacoia died, Giacoia dies, and everybody loved Frank Giacoia. And he died suddenly. And Gil and I were having lunch, and he said that he felt it was time it struck him that as a chord to his own mortality, and he felt it was important to go out and make peace with all the people he'd known all the years. So he went on his tour and did this. But a month and a half later, I was having lunch with him again, and we're sitting and talking. And I said, so how's the tour going? He was just rapturous. He said it was fantastic. And then in the middle of this, he cuts himself off and says, except for that fucking Carmine, fuck that guy. And it was perfect. It was just absolutely elegant and just, as character-based as you could possibly find. And like so many of my mentors, Gil couldn't write worth a shit. It was unbelievable. He was an incredibly talented artist. The influence that he had on the way comic book action is depicted. No one knows the lack of this cultural curiosity, the cultural amnesia that informs so much of the modern culture today. There's no idea of how much an impact he has. His work as the ground plane of action as depicted in comics, the whole concept of choreography and that element of movement, that the introduction of the implication of dance. It's just he's an enormous influence who's totally unacknowledged and invisible. But again, he was my boss and my first influence. But I don't draw anything like him. I don't think about the way he drew, because I stepped away from that kind of hyperbole, and I don't do hyperbolic work.
Right.
My work is not informed by opera. Rather, it's informed. I mean, if anything, it's informed by Stephen Sondheim rather than Rigoletto.
Yeah. I like that.
And like Sondheim, I'm not a popular figure. I'm not. Sondheim is well regarded, but he doesn't get the crowds in on Saturday night, you know.
That's true.
And he's dead.
See, I'm fascinated by the way you occasionally undersell your work. The power.
I'm not underselling. Oh no! I'm not underselling my work at all. No, you misunderstand. I'm a narcissist from word one. I'm an arrogant motherfucker.
Okay.
I have an ego that's vast and huge, but I also have a very realistic view of how my what I regard as good, what I acknowledge as excellent, is rarely fits into the punch card of bullet points that the average comic book enthusiast is seeking to be satisfied by. So there's no underselling at all. I know how good I am. Believe
All right, good. Excellent. Let me massage that ego a little bit more while we're at it.
Please.
I first encountered your work, the Iron Wolf stuff for DC back in Weird Worlds, and I immediately noticed that, I mean, there's something special about this. So whenever your name would pop up, I would gobble up the work, okay? The thing that completely blew my mind, transformed my entire world, I love it immensely to this day, as much as I did when I first encountered it, was the Alfred Bester Stars My Destination book. That must have been a monumental experience for you. That thing is littered with panels. There are hundreds and hundreds of panels and paintings in that book. How long did that thing take to produce?
It was 18 months, and it broke me. It left me financially destitute and ruined because no one made any money working for Byron Price except for Byron Price.
Of course, yeah.
And ultimately, it wasn't until First Comics made the offer to me on Flagg that I was able to begin to climb out of that financial hole.
Wow.
You know, and I just literally found 3 originals from it, you know. And I'm looking at this and I said, holy shit, what was I thinking? The level of effort invested in this shit, it's just to no avail.
It's incredible.
To no avail whatsoever.
It's all your graphic novel stuff too. Like all of that stuff in that period, you were going that hard the whole time.
Because I had delusions of grandeur.
And I singled you out early as a guy that not only had phenomenal illustration skills, but you also focused as heavily on the design sensibility as well as the illustration. And we didn't get a whole lot of that during that period. But for my money, this is real power. When I can experience a piece of art that sticks with me for decades, that whenever I hear the words Howard Chaykin put together, this is the image that immediately pops into my head. Maybe you'll take this as a compliment, maybe you won't. It's in Black Kiss.
Yeah.
When she's holding Eric's severed dick, and Bev says, you know, you're welcome to some of this. That panel has burned itself into my brain. I cannot get away from it. And I love it. I have to thank you for that panel.
I feel like my cape is blowing in the wind right now.
There you go. You are a superhero.
I'm about to leap into the sky to join George Reeves flying over Metropolis. You know, my work here, you know.
I read some
comic book nudity also. He was, they wouldn't sell me Black Kiss because I wasn't old enough, but they sold, they sold me Power and Glory because it just looked like a superhero comic, and that was the first dick I ever saw in a comic book.
I was so
the man draws a good dick, I will say.
And they're all too. You know, I just the idea of drawing it. I mean, look, I've seen too many brisses. What can I tell you? You know?
There we go. Yeah.
But I think the approach to Black Kiss.
This is a conversational tangent I was not anticipating. But please.
Well, the decision to bag Black Kiss Vortex to publish it in the plastic bags was brilliant.
Well, that's Bill Marks. I mean, Marks put. I mean, Sathis and I were just Lou. You know, Marks cornered me. Said Lou and I want to talk to you, and I said okay. So we did this, and you know, Marks was always really good at marketing. He really was. I haven't been in touch with him in years, and he's an odd figure, but it was you know, I was was the last vestiges of my alcoholism and drug abuse. And it's the perfect testament to, getting Rat cleaned up after that. I got sober about 2 years later. And I look back at that work now, and it's just the frenzy and hysteria, the paranoia that comes off those pages.
Yes.
Is enormous. I mean, I was clearly batshit.
It is like it reads like the end of Goodfellas. Like as soon as the helicopter shows up, that's what Black Kiss is like.
Well, I mean, my editor just wrote the modern version of the review of Black Kiss that Morrison put out, and after the first couple of issues were published, and because I couldn't do it, he wrote and it cracked me up, and it's incredibly fierce and vicious. It's relentless, and we're going to run it as a superimposed part of the artwork in a page in the trade paperback in one of the back matter things called "Everybody Hates Gitlin," and I'm really happy. I'm looking at the basic artwork right now. It's sitting on my desk, and it's pretty harsh. But I'm made of stern stuff. On the other hand, I'm no longer allowed to read anything about me on the internet, positive or negative, due to my wife. She has made it really clear that I'm not allowed to read any comments after any interview, except when I do interviews, when I do YouTube appearances with people who regard me as, quote, their liberal friends. The comments on Graham Nolan's YouTube channel after I do it are just great. They were pisser. They boil down to, why are you having that liberal faggot on your show?
Uh-huh.
Wow. Yeah.
It's great.
While I have you here, I'm just going to ask you everything I always wanted to ask you. Did you get a lot of pushback from DC on the Blackhawk series?
Not really. The two I got shit for the blowjob.
Yeah, well, I was assuming. Yeah,
but I also B'nai B'rith wrote a scathing letter to Jeanette Kahn about the thing with the Jewish mobsters killing the two Jew black soldiers and the hooker they hung.
Ah, right.
And I wish to Christ I had my copy of it. I'd love to enshrine that in some sort of memory book. That's something I'd like to post on Facebook. But their feelings were very hurt. I mean, I felt, in sort of the same way. I mean, again, I don't want to put myself in the same class as Philip Roth, but when Philip Roth's short story at the New Yorker, "Good for the Jews," took such heat, I felt pretty good, and because I'm deeply and profoundly ethnically Jewish, with no particular commitment to the religion, and which is not an unusual idea. It's secularity is as secularity does. And when the B'nai B'rith took it upon himself to be upset with me for this, I felt I touched a nerve, and it was a nerve I liked poking. That had more impact on me than the blowjob bullshit.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful scene, but it's very logical. Like the Army would give that job to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were more upset when one of the Jewish mobsters says to the other, "So the girl, is she Jewish?" And I said, "No, so kill her." The BB were not happy. They were like, that's just a terrible thing. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, come on. But people are more often than not, unwilling to own their own shit, and I have a tendency to own my own shit. I'm good. Yeah.
You talked about the class you used to teach at Marvel, where you would take wayward professionals under your wing and straighten them out. And I've heard you talk before about the idea of like hobbyists, people that work constantly, who sort of don't know when to take, when to clock out. If you were speaking to one of those, like what's a short list of things that someone could do to curb that behavior, to fix themselves?
Accept the fact that the minute you start accepting money for the work you're doing, you are a cog in a corporation. If you're working for a corporate company, that you're not putting anything over on anyone but yourself by behaving like an unprofessional asshole. That you are feeding into the fact that the editors hold you in contempt, and that writers who are smarter than you are taking advantage of you because their experience is transient and you're stuck. Because the way comics have become a business right now of IP, and that writers can basically use comics as a means of creating a public presence, honing their craft, and moving on. Whereas comic book artists, for the most part, with very few exceptions, are trained to deliver trope-based material, which has nowhere else to go. I mean, frankly, when people do comic book style drawings for illustrations for the New York Times or anywhere else, they don't hire comic book people. They hire illustrators who used to want to be comic book artists but realized that it was a shitty job. So the best thing a comic book guy can do is to behave like a professional, accept certain realities of the life they live, and stop behaving like an amateur hobbyist.
Makes
But
sense.
what if they own all the stuff? What if the corporation is me and I'm still just not? The veil's coming off. It's me, Howard.
Look. I mean, I years and years ago, I told this story a couple of days ago. Years and years ago, I saw someone's rate card, and the rate card was. I mean, I think they was being funny, but it was not funny. It was like this is what you'll pay for it if it's going to be good. This is what you'll pay if it's going to be great, and that's just bullshit. The job is to do the best work you can, no matter what you're doing it for and who you're doing it for, because it all represents you in the long run. It's where it's at. I mean, it just is. I'm working for free right now. I'm not billing for my work. Okay, I'm delivering material because I have a very healthy pension from the Writers Guild because I recognized at the age of 34 that I had no commercial footprint, despite the fact that Flagg was getting some nice attention, and that Times Square and all this other stuff. These things were getting very nice critical attention, but they overestimated the interest and the taste of the audience from word one, and that I was never going to have a safe and comfortable old age unless I found some other income stream, and that's why I moved to Southern California. I mean, October the 6th, I've lived in California more than half my life now. I moved here the day before I turned 35. It was October the 6th, 1985. And I intended to use the cachet that Flagg had generated for me to attempt to get into the movie business, and I stumbled into television. And I'm really grateful because I spent 15 years there. And I generated a pension and real estate. And the fact is, every single move I've made, making money elsewhere, has been intended to ultimately make it possible for me to make comic books. In the 1970s, it was working as an advertising artist, doing comps and storyboards for TV advertising at Denton Bowles, BBD&O, J. Walter Thompson, and Ogilvy Mather. Because the comics paid so shittily. The bubble that existed in the comics in the 90s was totally invisible to me because I was working in television. And that bubble is one of the reasons why the writer in comics is now the alpha, because the comic book publishers will do everything they possibly can to diminish the value of the artist in the name of the writer, because the writers will never pull the same shit on them that the Image guys pulled on Marvel. That's really the big deal. I mean, Image is of course not the same company it was in the 90s. Today, Image is now a very highly reputable company. They're my primary client.
Well, you were still cranking out work in the 90s, though. Were you doing like the Bravura stuff and Cyberella and stuff like that in between?
Well, I wrote stuff. I wrote stuff, and I ruined my health when I did the Power and Glory book while I was working. I was doing for 6 months. I ran on 4 hours sleep because I was doing the Power and Glory book, and I was working on staff at a television series. I was number 3 on a TV series. I was bad shit. My wife nearly left me. It was one of the reasons why she was really glad when I got fired from my last TV job. It was noon in Toronto, 9 a.m. in Pasadena. She was working at a dermatologist's office. She's an RN. I called her to tell her I got fired. The relief in her voice was palpable. She was just thrilled to know.
Wow.
Because it's a different market now, but in those days, I mean, it was an 80-hour work week, and it was making me into a completely unbearable human being. And I was working for people that would literally. I got fired on a Friday, and on Saturday I'm sitting at the Air Canada lounge at at Pearson in Toronto, and I'm talking. This is like 2002, June of 2002. So I'm just 10 years sober at this point, and I'm talking to my sponsor, my AA sponsor, who says I have to pray for the people who fired me. One of those AA tropes kind of thing. And he recorded what I said. What I said was I prayed that he gets ass cancer and a brain tumor, and it eats its way through English Jew body, eats the shriveled fucking turd that he uses for a heart. And my sponsor, who's a very spiritual guy, said that will work for today. So I hold a grudge. It's okay.
See, Vince. Maybe it's a Jew thing. I don't know what to tell you.
It could be.
Look, as I said more than once, I hold a grudge like a bloodstain on silk.
Yep.
I don't. Forgiveness is something that has to be earned.
Thank you.
It is. The colleagues of mine who took it upon themselves to throw calumny at me in 2017 over the Divided States of Hysteria book, they're fucking dead to me. They can rot and die and taste their own blood. But I say that with love.
Seriously, God, I love you so much.
To sleep 4 hours a night during that time to do a book while you were doing a TV show? Was it just seeing what was going on in comics, or was that
No, it was a mistaken judgment. It was a bad call, but I take a commitment seriously. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I made the mistake of saying I would do something, and I did it. And unfortunately, I thought the TV job was going to end, but it didn't. And the responsibilities grew. So I was getting up at 2 a.m, working until 7, then going into my office and working until 8. So it was like I was gone. I looked really good though. I was really trim. I had a whole body was in great shape. I had great hair. I was adorable. Like I say now, an unmade bed. Actually, I'm now Ed Asner playing an unmade bed.
Oh Jesus!
I'm doing a great.
Excellent.
I look like Hal Prince. I think I have a certain Hal Prince quality about me. A nice theatrical approach. What can I say?
First stuff of yours that I remember, well, not the first stuff that I saw personally, but the earliest stuff of yours that I saw was the Enemy Ace stuff, and it looked.
Oh, really? Wow, you must be really young. That was such shit. Oh,
it looks so different from the other stuff. It already looks like you though, but it's early on in your career, right?
About the design elements,
Yes. You obviously don't like it as much as I do, but I really I bought that thing obviously for the Kubert, but when I stumbled on I was like, oh shit, early Chaykin in here too. It looks so cool to me. It looks so the energy that it has, where it's half dashed out but half very considered.
Well, the lesson I learned from that was when I hired on to do the Phantom Eagle stuff at Marvel. I had Don Cameron, who was the guy that I did Cyberella with, who was basically the creative force behind Cyberella. I was there just to do script. He literally built me all the airplanes that Garth called for in the script. So I had CGI models of all that stuff. Just because drawing biplanes is a distinctly unrewarding experience.
Sure.
One of the things I'm really grateful about in doing Hell on Wheels and the Fargo stuff is that although there are a number of the stories that have airplanes in them, this one does not include it because it's just such a pain in the ass. Drawing trains, doing the trains is going to be a real treat. There's a lot of railroad stuff, and I love that they're drawing that real turn of the 20th century technology has an enormous appeal. And but if I had to draw a biplane these days, I'm going to build that model first.
That's pretty early to have been building CGI models. Were you out in front of the rest of the industry on that?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I don't think so. I think a couple of guys have been doing that. But Don Cameron is the guy who convinced me. Don came on and worked with me on my first book I did after I got out of TV on Mighty Love. And he had that evangelical fervor of dealing with CGI because he just experienced a year's worth of training. And we fought about it a lot. And ultimately, I come to understand that he was right, that, making use of this stuff, doing a hybridized combination of hard copy, messy hard copy, and clean digital is a really good way to go. It works really effectively for me. I mean, I stopped doing pages about 20 years ago. I now do my figures and my backgrounds on separate sheets and combine them in Photoshop. And what it's done is it creates comics as a production experience, and to a profound extent, it goes directly to what you were talking about comics as a design job. A couple months back, going on a year now, as a matter of fact, I got a call from Bill Sienkiewicz about coming out to Pasadena to hear a series of lectures that he was delivering, and an artist named Chris Payne, C.F. Payne, who's an extraordinary painter and illustrator and caricaturist. And Payne, rather than talk directly about his own work at first, did a slideshow lecture about the application of design and illustration. That was a real eye-opener and a reminder of what it was about American illustration from the beginning of the 20th century till the end that most appealed to me about the work, which is the picture making. And when you look at the mainstream magazine illustration in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, you realize that even the most mediocre guys, the B-level guys, all had their shit together in terms of making pictures. And that's really what it's about, And it's one of the things I talk at great length about, and the thing I'm doing with Mark in UCLA, which is that where you place shapes and images inside panels is where you find the endowment of narrative value. That a picture is not something, just a drawing that you put four lines around. It isn't a picture until a picture has context. And so much of that context I've learned from movies, from television, and from looking at magazine illustration. And then the page itself is the panels are a microcosm of the page itself. And all that stuff has to hang together in a way that is graphically pleasant and graphically valuable. Okay?
I'm just going to continue using this like a course that I'm taking from you, and not an interview about your.
That's for you, Tony. That's why you're here.
Yeah. Let me.
So say you're.
One of the a couple months back, there was this whole comics broke me thing, thanks to that douchebag from England, and the idea that when you people have given me shit about this, but I'll stand by what I said. There's this idea that has emerged over the past decade or so. That everything is seen through the string of entertainment, that I enjoyed this. I took pleasure in this. And they call it work for a reason. They don't call it fun. They call it work. And there seemed to be this comics broke me thing. The implication of it was that comics were a sort of as natural a function as reading comics, of breathing. And no, comics is a discipline that has a vocabulary and a syllabus. And that there's a reason why pictures are the shape they are, the size they are, why a page looks the way it does, and that it isn't something you can just get up in the morning on Saturday and say, I think I'm going to do a comic book today and be a professional by the end of the day. And the insult to the work that I've done and the work that has been done by my colleagues, contemporaries, and those who came before me in that assumption is rich and deep and really kind of pisses me off. And I wrote a piece that pissed a lot of people off, and much like that piece in Cyberella, I really didn't give a shit.
Right. While we're on the subject of context, one of the things I recognized about your work was you don't, you're not generic, especially in terms of fashion. Your clothing looks tailored. They're not generic suits. They're very specific, down to the shoes and the hats and the period specific pieces. Your fashion sense is impeccable.
Well, that's research. I mean,
right, exactly.
The material deserves that much respect.
Right, and you spill it over into the architecture. You don't do a stand-in for 1930s architecture. You actually do your due diligence, do the research, and represent a building as it would have looked in that period.
But look. I mean, it goes right to the cover I did for Fargo, for example. Okay, it's the first time we see the character of Ellen Whitmore, who's the female lead of the book, and I made a very specific choice in not making her look like a 21st century woman running around in 19th century clothes. I fit her out in 19th century clothing, and she's got a 19th century, early 20th century face. Women look different. Men look different in those days. They carried themselves differently. And I mean, when you look at say Frank Schoonover's illustrations for Princess of Mars, all right, you realize that when Burroughs described John Carter and Deja Torres, that as the most beautiful woman of two planets, that was a very different idea in 1912 than it is in 2023. And I have I really respond to period material where, and when anachronism pops up, I find myself being sucked out of it. That said, there are still period pieces. I mean, I point at a book called Gates of Fire, written by Stephen Pressfield, which was about the Spartans at Thermopylae. And it's written in a particular vernacular style and a modern language, and yet it never feels anachronistic. Whereas, I mean, I just, if I hear one more character in a drama use the word step foot,
Right.
it just, I mean, no, listen, pay attention, people did not call, there's language existed before. It's a plastic idea. Things change, but it's worth trying to keep at least some sense of period together. I mean, right now, as I said, I'm in the process of doing my second dialogue pass on Fargo, and Fargo. This story takes place in 1911, and it requires attention because I'm trying not to lose the thread, but keep people interested. I mean, people when people were telling people to shoot arrows at someone, they didn't say fire. I mean, it just was loose. So it's. I have my obsessions, and you seem to respond to some of them.
Yes, it makes your work incredibly immersive, and there's a veracity to it that you don't find in the average garden variety like stuff. A lot of illustrators just do the bare minimum of research, but you dive in whole hog, and your work benefits from it. It's just incredible.
I love the process. I love all that research is fun to do for me. I like going around digging. I like finding stuff. I don't make stuff up. Anecdotally with Gil couldn't work slowly enough to incorporate reference. He asked Don to teach him how to use photographic reference, and it was 6 months of frustration between the two of them. Because Gil was stuck drawing a generic city, generic automobiles, generic suits, and everything else in a very generic way. To the point where I lost my interest in when he was doing these adaptations of the Norse mythology of the Wagnerian stuff. That it just felt completely phony baloney.
Right.
Talk to me a bit about.
Love it.
You're an excellent designer. You have an incredible taste. Here's what I run into. Issue 1, I can design the shit out of a cover. Issue 2 and 3, I'm pretty good. 4, 5, 6, 7. After this, I start to get. I run out of inspiration, and I know part of it is sort of pulling yourself out of it and looking at other things. What do you have for that? Can you help, Doctor? Can you help me?
It's a tough one. It really is. You talk about cover design. It's my tertiary skill set. I always have problems with covers. I'm constantly brought up short by my limitations there. I live in a country in which Dave Johnson lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, come on. I mean, what the fuck? Stop it, Dave.
It makes sense. He's doing the variant for the book. So that but I don't know if that's good or bad, because you're competing against some sort of kind of.
Be humble, but it's a tough one. It's a matter of getting granular and and understanding the fact that they're all not going to be perfect. You know, we are constantly surfeited with the idea that we got to be the best we can possibly be, and that's fine. But there are times where, you know, a really good friend of mine has a huge assignment right now, and he's working his way through that huge assignment. And he started with an enormous crisis of doubt. And I said, look, a lot of them are going to be fucking brilliant. You know, a couple of them will be really, really good, and you're going to fuck up a couple of them. So shut up and get to work. And that's really what it's about. You know, I mean, I do the best I can with what I can work with. I cannot compete with some people, with most people, on the terms that they play, but I'm pretty good competing with myself on my own. And, you know, I think one of the reasons why I don't do extended narratives, why I do short form, is that I don't put myself in the position of having to think about what the cover of issue 68 is going to be. Also, I like the idea of doing stories in which characters actually have a character arc of change. You know, comic books are based on a narrative model that bears a direct resemblance to the Roadrunner Coyote cartoons. Because what you got is a Mobius strip of fake closure. There's no closure really. It's a pursuit with no real capture, and in which character development and character change is personified by whether or not Batman has a yellow circle around his bat symbol on his chest or not, or whether Spider-Man's outfit is red and blue or black. And I prefer to do narratives in which the character at the end is different from the character we saw at the beginning, because that's how fiction is. You know, Fargo is the perfect example of the character remains the same for 20 books. But in my stuff, if I'm writing my own stuff from beginning to end, that last issue, there could be sequel. Look, it took me 20 years to come up with, close to 20 years, over 20 years to do a sequel to Black Kiss. And it wasn't until I read Sondheim's book of lyrics that I understood what it could be. It took me that long.
Was there a desire to up the ante on the first book? Because I think Black Kiss 2 outdoes, in terms of debauchery and just plain explicitness, really goes way beyond the original series. Did you have a desire to outdo yourself, so to speak, on that second volume?
Not really. I knew I was a better artist. My drawing was better, but I also felt that the narrative called for the level of degeneracy that I delivered. I wanted to do something that was consistently lubricious, and was, you know, would antagonize the very people who antagonized the first arc even more so. Excellent. Because basically, you know, if I'm not pissing somebody off on a daily basis, I haven't really had my sunshine yet that day. I mean, it's, you know, the idea of having to satisfy, I posted a link to an essay by a guy named Justin E.H. Smith from Harper's a couple of months ago. Smith is a really interesting figure. He's probably in his 50s, I guess, late 40s, early 50s, who is a product of Sacramento redneckery, who, you know, comes out of death metal and heavy metal, and is now, of course, a teacher of English as a second language and philosophy in Paris. So go figure. And in the course of this piece, he talks about, and he uses Robert Crumb as sort of a linchpin and a barometer of what he's talking about. He talks about the criticism that Crumb started getting about a decade ago for his work, and I've come to understand that he refers to what that sort of reaction, and it's a generalized idea, and it's this brilliant micro phrase. It's perfect. The phrase was Philistine pseudo-criticism, and it's absolutely devastating to me to have someone nail that like that. That's a cross of gold. And, you know, because we live in a culture in which the word problematic is actually simply encoding for blasphemous, and the word controversial is equally meaningless in meaning profane, you know. And and I like profane, and I like blasphemy. I mean, one of the things I think is, I'd love to go back in time to burn the people who burned the witches. And I recognize the fact that I've been pummeled by people who feel that I misrepresent, but I'm not representing anyone. I mean, I'm doing me, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done. And I recognize the fact that I'm working for an audience, for a business, which is perfectly happy to be flattered and patronized and pandered to, with superheroes, super space dragon, mutant monster bullshit. And that's the yardstick in which my work is measured. And that let's go right back to our first discussion. That can suck a bag of dicks.
Excellent. Anything you boys want to ask Mr. Chaykin before we wrap this up?
When are you coming back?
Possible question. What's that?
When are you coming back?
You guys are fun to talk to. I'm game.
Because I know Jason would love to chat with you. So.
And go Skype free is really a plus.
Well, we're on Skype. That's the crazy thing. You're the only one standing out here on principle on a telephone. Everybody else is just here on Skype just to make.
I can't be mad at her for that.
Skype is just another way of saying fuck. Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah. Bring me back on. But while I'm here, remember, get out there and support this fucking book, Fargo.
Yes.
Hell on Wheels. Go to Zoop and support the book. If you're in Los Angeles, come out and see me and Mark Waid on the 18th of November at UCLA at Ackerman Hall. Take a look at the link. It's on Facebook. And love me. It's all I ask. I'm not willing to do the work required, but I'm willing to show up for it if that big.
Well, you'll get a whole lot of that here. Thank you very much, Mr. Chaykin.
Thanks, guys. This has been an absolute guest. I was not looking forward to it, but I leave here with my spirit enlightened. And that's
fantastic. Oh,
I'm quite serious. I would look. Trust me. Those who know me well enough know that I never say anything like that if I don't mean it with all my heart. And that's no bullshit.
Well,
thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Everything over the years. Thank you for being here tonight.
Stay well.
Appreciate it. You as well.
Come to me again. I'd love to come back. This is a gas.
Absolutely.
Right? Behave. Gentlemen, it's been a treat. Thanks again.
See you on campus.
You will.
Man, what a guy. Whenever I run into him, I'm always intimidated because he's so much smarter than me and everyone I know. But then every time I speak to him, he's just so also warm and encouraging and inviting. Inviting seems like he's trying to fuck me, but he's just always very warm and helpful. And I always appreciate that about him. But I'm so thankful you guys hit me up about coming on. I'm so thankful Jason's off doing whatever he's up to.
I have to admit, in the week leading up to this interview, my anxiety was high. I was incredibly intimidated.
You don't want to show your ass.
Exactly. Act like you've been there, right?
Yeah.
So I had to just put all that stuff in the back seat and just pretend. Notice I called him Mr. Chaykin because I don't think I could ever bring myself to just call him Howard. That's a respect thing.
Sure, yeah.
And
I told you guys when we were in the Patreon portion of this, but while we were speaking to him, Amazon dropped Black Kiss Volume 2 off on my doorstep, as if the spirit of Howard Chaykin was in the air here in Van Nuys, California, and they just wanted me to make sure that I could carry this wonderful feeling that I have all the way till the end of the evening tonight. So that's what I'm doing tonight. I'll start off talking to Chaykin. I'm going to go out reading Chaykin.
Well, buckle up for huge penises.
Dicks, yeah.
Yep.
Just through a flip, they are, much longer and more frightening than the original. So
yes, more bodily dismemberment. There's a whole bunch of extra in Black Kiss too.
Yeah, he's upping the ante
for real. Yeah. Oh boy, I love them both so much, but I love the first one more. Yeah, you never forget your first time.
Mine was, so like I said in the interview, they wouldn't sell them to me at the comic shop where I worked. But I basically, I think I was like 15, and I sort of was just like, look, nobody, because it wasn't like they were fresh coming out then; they were in the back issues, and I was like, listen, I love all the other stuff. Can you just put it aside, and then when I'm old enough, I'll buy it. Like I just don't want to miss out on this. There was no internet at the time. I figured these would be the last copies of this I would ever see, and so until I got the collected edition in 2000, all I had was. When I think they let me do it at like 17 or whatever. They weren't waiting until I was actually 18, but they weren't going to let a 15-year-old walk out of there with Black Kiss. And so I just had like 3 or 4 issues of it. And then sometimes I would run into them at other stores where they where they were sort of less vigilant and didn't know me. And so I'd be able to trick them like as if I was buying porn at a gas station.
Oh, yeah, your little paste-on mustache.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir. I'd like to buy some adult things. What is that there? A ballot? Well, I'm of legal voting age, so I'll take one of those. And one of those Black Kisses, too.
And a pack of condoms, because I use them quite frequently.
Yes. Oh, my.
Extra large.
Hyperback. Tut.
That was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
It saddens me a bit, because I wish Jason was here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but, hey...
it was definitely the conversation. I mean, we had a fantastic weekend, of course, which people will hear about shortly. But work, the past 2 days, I've been at work. Have just been nearly unbearable, and I did not get to really spend a lot of time preparing for tonight, and I know that Howard was here to talk about the Fargo book, and we did, but we were also able to talk about other things that we wanted to talk about. But once he came on and everything started, it just all was right in the world. I just everything, any problems, any issues, any concerns I had all just melted away. It was we had a blast.
It was good stuff.
It was.
It sounds like he's eager to come back. Like you guys can definitely have you might replace me with Howard Chaykin. That would be great.
I love him, but I would never replace you.
I would be so much more excited about firing up the show if it was just like, get sitting in the fourth chair again. He's just here cracking on you guys all week.
Yeah, it's like, why are you reading this shit? Yeah, right? This stuff is garbage.
It's awful.
Well, let's talk about some not awful comics.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I have to be honest. I did not read that thing that you said to read, but I would love to hear you two talk about it.
David, did you read it?
I did.
Would you agree that Vince is going to feel foolish for not having read this?
Well, before you start kicking me in the Calhoun's, I didn't read it only because time constraints.
Okay.
And, trying to prepare, make sure everything was tight and right for this episode. And I had to do a lot of traveling today for work, so I just didn't get a chance to read it.
All right. So it wasn't a...
And you did send it to us at 6:30. So...
Yesterday.
No, you did. Oh, you sent it yesterday?
Yeah. And I didn't send it in a text message because I know that's such a...
Yeah, don't fucking do that. I can't stand that. Because then it comes up on my phone. What am I going to do with that? No.
Well, I mean, if you just got the right kind of fucking phone like everybody else...
Thank you.
We'll just read it.
No.
What's crazy is who cares? Anyway, David, what did you think of this? Did you love it like I loved it?
I didn't really know what to expect, but the whole Richard Scarry looking feel of it is just I don't.
Number one, I hate to interrupt you, but you didn't even tell them the title yet.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Tony, go ahead.
About from IDW Publishing, a writer and artist named Patrick Horvath with letters by Hassan Atsmain El How, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's in stores today. I read an early copy of this probably a month or two ago because they wanted a pull quote, but I just read it again today when I picked up the actual physical issue, and it's my favorite thing that I've read in months. I'm just delighted by it, and I have obviously a personal connection to things that look very cute but are very gory. So I'm pulling for it on that level, already out of the gate. Even at the comic store, I was trying to pitch it to people who were checking out, and they're like, "That looks kind of cute." And I was like, "Don't you see? This is what I've been facing." But David,
but with Stray Dogs, you kind of really don't. I mean, yeah, the movie poster covers aside, you don't really give a whole lot away just on the cover alone. This cover kind of sets you up for what to expect in the issue.
For sure. It's very interesting. The book is, like David said, it's drawn in sort of like a storybook sort of way. It's about a lady teddy bear named Samantha who owns a hardware store in an idyllic small town that's about to celebrate its bicentennial. And we're sort of introduced to her and all her animal customers and friends. For the first probably like 5 or 6 pages of the book, we sort of set up this world, and we're also introduced to this sort of like sad, forgetful goat named Martin, who's like we can tell is sort of like, I don't know if he has dementia or if he's just sort of like losing a step, but he's like a character around town that everybody sort of takes care of and keeps an eye on because they want him to be okay, And he comes into the hardware store and he's like, can you help me find my glasses? And they're like, oh, Martin, they're on your face, man. And but everybody in town, there is sort of like would you say there's a sense of foreboding? I guess because you've seen the cover when you're reading it, you're already like, what's going to happen here? But you meet all these characters. You meet this family of this, I think he's a possum who has a wife and kids, and you're just like, oh, I hope nothing happens to this guy. Charlie.
Yes.
And Pauline and he's got these adorable little possum kids. But halfway through the day, her work day, Samantha gets up and she leaves the hardware store and she leaves the possum, Charlie, in charge. And she drives to the city and she says, like, I have to do this every once in a while, but I don't like to do it in town because I don't like to draw attention. But she basically goes to the city, and I'll skip the preamble. She abducts and brutally murders an adorable con man cartoon duck, and dismembers him and bleeds him out, and then takes the parts of his body and puts them inside paint cans and buries them in the woods. And then leaves and goes back to the small town where she comes from, sort of refreshed, reset. She feels okay now. She sort of like let all the tension of her life out. She had a release, and now she can sort of go back to being, like a normal part of this community. And she has dinner with friends, and she just seems fine. Like everything's great. And there's a twist at the end that sort of sets up as if the twist in the middle was enough. But what's great about this book is you're reading it and because you're like, oh, Jesus, this is just going to be about this vicious murderer. But at the end of the book, somebody's been murdered in town, and all the stuff that she does to sort of like draw attention away from town so that she can get this release and sort of like do this murdering that she needs to do to live her life as a without flipping out. Now there's going to be attention in her town. Now she says, wouldn't take much bad luck for an investigation to stumble onto the wrong killer and find out what this town's favorite brown bear has been up to for the past couple of decades. If someone were stupid enough to do that, we'd have a problem. A major fucking problem. And the great thing is there's no cursing at all in the beginning part of the book. And it's sort of like it lulls you into this thing because it looks so adorable and not.
The watercolor effect of the coloring is just... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, the artwork is like accomplished too. Like it looks like not just a children's book, but like a good children's book, like the kind that you would have read 50 times before you hit the 3rd grade, And so it really lulls you into this place. And like I said, there's no cursing. So when the violence starts, you're just like, woo, man, like that was hardcore. And they, when we did our cute murder comic, we sort of strayed away from showing a whole ton of it. We used it only where it counted. This one, they just put it right in your fucking face. There's like, this is what she does. This is what it takes for her to be able to continue and live her life. and it's brutal. You know, it's just like woof. And because it's happening to another adorable cartoon character, it's just like somehow it hits even harder. If you like, I mean, David, I'm sorry, I'm
no, go ahead.
I mean, if you like serial killer stuff, and if you like, like, you know, soft watercolor Hallmark cards and children's books, like, this is one of those books that I think you could hand to anybody. You know, like, what's cool about it feeling so out there is that it's only out there in terms of, like, what Howard was talking about. You know, just like normal, you know, rock'em sock'em superhero comics. This thing, if it was you know, on Netflix or anything like that, you just be like, man, that is fucked up. I gotta watch that. So I'm hoping it finds an audience, because it's like, I love to see somebody take a swing like this.
I reading through it twice for the second time before tonight. It's so well thought out. It's very similar to, you know, like an episode of Criminal Minds, and just trying to get inside what an unsub is thinking. But you've got so she goes to the city so she could find her next victim, and you've got some Hasidic Jews just walking down the street. And what's interesting is that when she's in the woods doing her business, an actual grizzly bear just shows up and comes by and just walks through. So this is a world where the animals are dressed and act as humans, but there are also animals in this world, and I don't expect that to get I don't expect too much delving in there, but it is one of those little interesting things. It's like, you know, so what? Of course, it's the woods. You'd have, you know, wildlife living there. It just happens to be that, you know, the wildlife is also walking around wearing pants and collared shirts. But it's an
uncomfortable moment too. Like, it's just because it does happen at a moment in the story where just like, where she's just murdered somebody, she's just done this methodical sort of like disposing of this body, and then this other bear shows up, and she says, "I appreciate it if we could keep this just between us." And it's just, the line is so cutting and sharp, but also it's like, it's giving you sort of like goofy Pluto, you know?
Yes.
Where you're just, okay, so we're in a world like this. Hello, Baxter. But yeah, it's like that. This what's the writer artist name, Horvath, that they hadn't done anything before that I could find is crazy to me, because it really comes out of the gate so self-assured and like so smart and well crafted. Very exciting. I felt the same way when I read this as I felt when I read Zoe's book, when I read the Center of the Earth, where it's just like, here's a new person that knows exactly how to control this medium, and they're doing something that's completely their own thing.
Yeah.
Nice. You know, if this was an episode of You Bet Your Life, the duck would drop down and the secret word for the day would be Jew. Because we've said it a bunch of times this episode. So the secret word for tonight is Jew.
Yes.
But no, I did look at the book, and it looks phenomenal. I did not have time to read it, but I think that the cover is a strong indication of what you're going to get with the dragging the bloody bag across the ground. It looks really cool. So uninformed opinion, but nonetheless.
I already envision Melissa McCarthy doing the voice of our heroine. Samantha would definitely. I can already hear, but yeah, I just, and it's obviously a type of story where you're being sucked in by seeing a day in this life of this shop owner, and as she's saying hello to everybody in town and all her friends, and as soon as you're leaving Woodbrook, her expression changes in the car driving, and then all of a sudden we see the type of creature she really is, and it's like The Sopranos is something that's like, am I really supposed to root for this person? But obviously now something else is going on in town, and I mean, after reading Kyle Stark's books all year, and Where Monsters Lie and things like that, it's this isn't. Nobody should be. Nobody should be clutching their pearls over something like this, but it was extremely well done. I really like the look of it. I like the way the characters were. I like the setup. I felt it was a really, really strong, really good first issue. And thanks to you, I will have to look for the second when that comes out in a few weeks. If it is a monthly book, I don't even know. But yeah, no, this is great, Tony. Thanks for sharing with us.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
I love the people that shatter convention. They look at the lay of the land and they see what's selling, or they perceive these artistic trends, and they just say, you know what, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it my way. Which again ties into the Chaykin appearance, but that is extremely endearing to me. Where I mean, look at the laundry list. You have Johnny Ryan with Prison Pit. All of the things that we talk about that are against the grain, outside the norm. Those are the books that really keep my love for comics alive. Not just comics, but art in general. That applies to movies and music. And if you take a stab at doing something new, original, and different, heedless to trends and popularity contests, that you've won me over immediately. And that's what this book sounds like. That
it's like a sure shot to get my attention as well, because there's only so many different ways you can slice the onion. Is that what the saying I'm looking for?
It sounds nice.
Of superheroes, or of crime comics, or of all these things that we've seen a million different ways. If you really want to make me pay attention to something, if you can find a different way to come at something, that's how you get me to look at it. And I don't know if that's specific to me, who's been. Can you hear my dog just going crazy on this water?
It fits. I mean, you're the straight. Yeah.
He's been drinking this whole time. I've just been muting on and off. He's so thirsty. Oh, there he's done. Well, if you can find a way to do something different, do something that's just where you take something familiar and show it to me in a whole different light, you really have my attention. I will buy obviously all of these, and then whatever this person does next, I'll check that out too. It's one of those things where you're just so excited that somebody's has a take like this.
Right. Unless we're talking novelty, then all that crumbles. Right. We forget what we love in the face of novelty because we love that first. And that kind of takes precedence sometimes. But anyway, David told you that you would be hearing Jason somewhere along the lines of this episode, and now you're going to, because here is our New York City Comic-Con 2023 recap. And we're coming back, so after that's over, Tony's going to be dropping in again, and we'll do a little bit more talking. But for right now, here we are, all three of us, talking about New York Comic Con 2023.
It's a bittersweet day because it's Sunday and we are wrapping up the con.
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to miss you guys.
Oh, for sure.
But
100 times.
We had a hell of a good, 72 plus hours for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
But we had a great time, capital G, great time. Mm-hmm. But it was atypical.
Yes.
Because David and I spent more time on the Artist Alley floor than we have in the past, 3 New York Comic Cons together, I think.
I hardly recognize you guys.
We were talking, right? We were having fun.
Yeah.
I think my wallet hardly recognizes me because Vince and I were saying this morning that we did not spend a lot of money.
No, we did the calculations. We spent about $81.
What?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, cash. Obviously, the lunches and whatnot, the bars, those were done at the.
That's separate.
Right. But
yeah, those are necessary expenses, not the drinks. Okay. But I mean, food is a necessary expense. But so we bought the Wasted Space Omnibus,
yep,
which was $50.
Yep.
Then we got the Rick and Morty character guide hardcover, which was $16.
Okay.
And what am I?
bought the toy for $5.
Oh yeah, so you have a little more. You spent a little more than I did.
Statue, right?
I bought the statue for Renee.
Right. Yeah, I'm going home $81.
And I bought the commission, which I gave Dave cash for that. But yeah,
It's so stupid. Oh well. And I think you hit the nail on the head that not only do we have most of the stuff we want, we search to fill in holes or
which is
reclaim. I like that word, reclaim stuff that we let go before. And there wasn't a whole lot of that at the show.
And it's dwindling even more, like year after year.
Yeah.
It's not, we said, we've been saying for a couple of years now, it's not a shopping show for us.
But
You
the
and
thing
I-
is, show floor heroes, you could drop $80 in like 2 minutes.
Oh, as soon as you
and
walk
then
in.
Yeah,
First
easy.
dude you see, here you go.
So easy. Like,
I
oh my
feel like
God.
the last 2 heroes, though, you guys have been like, the shopping's not what it used to be either.
Again, because the first couple times we went
was it was
gangbusters.
yeah it was a
I mean, we
all you
shipped
can
shit
eat
home
buffet
to us.
yeah.
I just think it's the con economics are such now that the traditional dealers that just have single issues that in bins, just they've decided it's not economical for them.
Right.
They gotta they gotta either have them packaged up in whole
Or
runs,
whole
or
sets.
they gotta have them slabbed.
Yeah. Well,
or they
the
gotta do
guys
collector's
that-
issues.
The guys that used to sell the remaindered hardcovers and trades, they're not there either.
Well, I think that's again just the publishers are much smarter about
Right.
runs now.
Trim.
I mean, how often do we get with the PR stuff? We get a million emails and PR notifications about, oh, it's going back to print, and it's like it's not because like it's selling a million copies. It's because the 5,000 that they printed the first run got sold, so they're going back
Right,
to print.
right. They're being much more frugal with their print runs. Back in the day, why not? Because overprinting is cheaper
Right.
than printing to specific numbers,
Right.
and it really doesn't make sense for a publisher that got 3,000 orders to print 3,000 books. That's ridiculous. You would print like 4,000 or 5,000
Yep.
to get a nice chunky discount. Depending on the publisher, it's different wherever they go. But yeah, it's. I wasn't dissing. I used to let it get me down.
About
You did.
Last year,
Yeah.
and the year before, I used,
Not
whenever
finding
we
stuff?
walked down to the con floor and there wasn't a lot of comic specific stuff, I used to be like, "Ah, fuck this! What the fuck am I doing here? I'm like wasting my other than being with you guys. Like this is a drag." But no, I looked at it as this is an experience. I didn't even mind the crowds this year,
right.
and they weren't as robust as.
Our backs weren't breaking either because we weren't lugging around so much crap.
No, it got a little hairy there with the
With the waste space.
with the yeah, because that's not a light book.
Light book.
But strong like bull, right? Whatever,
And
you
it's-
weather it.
It's and I know. Listen, it's New York. It's a tourist attraction. It's people are flying in for this convention, so the dealers are going to price it because they figure, fuck it, we're going to make money. But as a comic fan, if you want me to buy your whole sets, price them so I'll leave with them.
Yeah, exactly.
DC versus Marvel for $55.
Four goddamn issues.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah,
I always wonder. I mean, I think they're just trying to trap people, right? Like people that don't know any different.
exactly.
But the thing is who's going to New York Comic Con to buy sets of issues that doesn't know any different?
Right.
Right.
Just because
It's a
you're
good
there,
point.
I mean, shit, you could just bring up your phone and be, well, then fuck it, I'll just order it from like
It's a
Mile
good
High or
point.
something.
Yeah, even Mile High with their they lean into overpriced on most
Right.
of the stuff.
More like My Comic Shop, Lone Star.
Yeah. Well,
Priced
yeah.
a little better, a little better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I get
mean,
stuff
Mile
from
High
Lone
has
Star
it
all the
set
time.
up. I mean, I got to give for all the people that make fun of Chuck Rosansky at Mile High, like he definitely has seen the industry like the right way over
Yep.
the years because he was the first guy to realize you could sell back issues for premiums if you had them available. Then now he was also the first guy like a decade ago to stop going to San Diego, stop going to New York because he's just like it's not worth it anymore. And then at the time people were like, oh, that's just crazy. But then lo and behold, I mean, over the passage of time, he was the first. Now nobody go right. Like there's no.
Well, you remember Christina with Discount Comic Book Service,
Yeah.
ramping up like CGS. They had a big booth selling trades and hardcovers
Yeah.
at the CGS Super Shows. Then she came to New York, and that one year they brought like 10 workers with them. They had the massive racks. They had single issues. They had trade
Yeah.
paperbacks. Where's DCBS now? She doesn't even come. If she's in New York, she's probably talking to
Just for the-
publishers.
the
Yeah.
meets and greets.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
even.
Midtown used to have a humongous setup in the middle of the con floor.
Yeah.
Which was, and literally it was a 5-minute walk to actual Midtown Comics if you want. And I think they just decided, well, listen, we'll just have a sale at our store, and if people really want to go buy back issues, they can show up.
And the
to our
people
stuff.
that would actually go to the store are the people that really want the comics.
Yeah.
The mom and pops who the son sees an issue of Harley Quinn, is, that's how much can that net them? Like, not much.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the most efficient show for all of us, like in terms of time spent on the floor. Like, there wasn't a lot of like meandering around aimlessly, hoping to stumble on something. For me at Artist Alley, there wasn't a lot of like having to go back and hover over people, or have people say, "Oh, come Saturday," and then you go Saturday and like, "Oh, can you come back later?" Like, it was all pretty efficient. The creators were all very good with the timing. Like, if they said that they'd be ready by 3 p.m., they were ready by 3 p.m., which is a pleasant surprise. Which is why we were able to sort of get in and out and spend a lot of time away from the con.
Yeah, we made quality time with each other. This trip was really good.
Yeah, I still love the con. I still love the experience. I still love seeing people we don't get to see that often. Just because I may be down on what's available or what I get out of it, it's still worthwhile.
I think we've entered a phase of apathy with the dealer floor. It is what it is. We'll look around, but I had no hopes going in that I was going to find anything. The vinyl that I found last year was a nice surprise. Mm-hmm. Did not repeat that experience this year, but so what?
But yeah, I mean,
so what?
We're becoming.
If I want that kind of stuff, I know where to go.
Right. I mean, part of it for me too is that my kids are older now, so like even the Lego stuff, which I always used to be a big highlight. I'd go and get just a grip full of Lego minifigures, any ones that I thought the kids didn't have yet, and they'd be so excited. But they're not into that anymore, so and it's just it's just a different,
right.
Like you said, it's a different phase. We have enough shit. You guys realized, as we were going to record this, you guys got a peek of the comic room, and Vince was like apoplectic over it. Like,
yeah, well, it's more the
disorganization.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again,
yeah. When I see a stack and it's not perfectly vertical, I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah, but it can't be organized until I can empty it out.
Or on the booze on top of thin little trades.
Yeah, right. And they're jacked different directions. This one's going to Saigon. This one's going to Canada. Like, no, no, I can't. I cannot have that. But whatever. It's not my stuff.
When you come back next year, it's going to be pristine. We're going to be hanging there.
Well, when we back the cars up to the side of the house today.
Right.
Jason's wild pig sale.
Yeah.
But I think from the perspective of someone who just wants to go to the con, isn't a diehard comic fan, I think the ticket price is worth it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of things there's a huge chunk of the convention that we don't even get to experience. We don't go to panels,
which is a huge part of the con.
Yeah, we don't do the autographs.
Right,
we never have done. Well, we've done that once or twice.
Yeah.
In Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, but so we're looking at it from an insular perspective of we're comic fans. What can you offer us? And the answer is Artist Alley.
Yes.
Right, and I think Artist Alley's phenomenal this year. So,
but to your point, but like it is hard to spend 4 days in Artist Alley unless you're just an absolute art grinder. Right?
Or if you want to have thorough, if it's possible to have thorough conversations with the people who make the books you love, you can spend 4 days in Artist Alley easy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, it's tough like to record there, though. Like if we wanted to.
It's very hard
just because of the noise and the
logistics. And we got to thank Zoe for introducing this episode. That's that was the number one get. Dave may not agree, but I think that was the number one. The number one get of the
for
week.
Us, for Dave.
Yeah, not so much.
It was reversed, but it was. That was great. That was one goal that we definitely checked off.
Yeah.
Yep, we got to meet Zoe Thorogood. She was very charming in person. Signs my page, and she was very amicable. We were joking about for those that haven't read her book, I mean, we've all talked about it. I mean, she spends a big chunk of the book talking about the anxiety that she feels at Comic-Cons or conventions, and how fans are coming up to her and telling her how much they love her work, and how she's like, completely freaked out about it all. And so it's kind of meta to go up to her and tell her how much we love her work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But she was laughing about it, and she seemed amicable about maybe coming on the show. So, fingers crossed we can make that happen. Which
yes.
Is great. Who else did we get to chat with? And the usuals, right?
Steggy?
Yes, we spoke with Ryan Stegman.
Kyle Starks.
Kyle Starks was an awesome, an absolute ball of energy.
Yeah.
Can't wait to speak to him.
I wonder what his calorie count is per day. Because he is like amped, man. touching himself. Whoa, he must be Sicilian because he spoke with his hands a lot.
We'll ask him.
Yeah.
I don't think Starks is Italian.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
Yeah. Obviously, we caught up with Mahmoud as usual.
Yep.
We, of course, chatted up Mr. Ryan Brownie.
Sanford.
Well,
long time.
So of course, the Felix dinner.
Yeah, long time.
Right.
Sanford.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just as far as the timeline goes, so Wednesday night, obviously, you folks heard that episode we recorded when Vince and I got here. Jason's. And Thursday
Well, you
morning.
can hear you two.
Right. You can hear two of the three.
Yeah.
Which
For
is
the
great.
second year
It is a trio.
For the
Jason,
second year in a row somehow. I don't know.
Jason chiming in from the void, banging on the membrane between worlds.
We were all literally sitting at the table together.
It makes no sense.
But
But
anyway,
wait, no, let's clarify. This is being recorded at Jason's house as well, but different room.
A lower level.
You cannot tell me that this does not sound better than the kitchen. So this is
You
the
can, but you'd be lying.
this is the solution.
yep.
Now we've alleviated all that
Plus, we won't
bullshit.
have Hobbs barking at you.
I know we don't mind that.
Yes, like you were saying, Wednesday.
So Wednesday, you guys knew what would happen then. Thursday, what's crazy to me, is that Thursday was the most painful drive to and from. Traffic was crazy going there, and then there was the construction. On the way back. Friday rained, and it was Friday. Friday was great for Friday traffic. Yesterday it rained and it was still smooth.
Yeah.
And then the rides home were good too. It was kind of a reverse. I expect it to be busy on the weekends. I expect it to be busy when it rains. But it was great. But we get to the con, and it was just Thursday morning. When did we get? We split up Thursday morning, right?
Yeah. I think.
Yes. Because Thursday was the one day we went.
Well, no, Thursday at first we walked through
entered
the floor
upstairs.
together when we first got there.
The main floor?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. We took a little walk around.
Right.
The main floor. And
What?
then I went down to Artist Alley.
Right. I don't think specifics are. We don't. You know what I mean?
No. I'm just trying to.
What are the things that really, for either side, memorable or disheartening, that we experienced at New York Comic Con?
If Reed sends out a survey,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to request putting the podcast, the press lounge, back where it was, and I'm going to beg them to get rid of those self-service checkout kiosks when you leave, because they only have two
Yeah.
at the exit on the main.
See, that's a
concourse.
problem, right? That's
a bottleneck.
Right.
That's ridiculous. I mean, they eventually had a couple people ready to scan for you,
Right.
but that first night out, it was stupid.
It was kind of stupid. It was. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to lead with a downer, but one of the disheartening things for me was Super 7.
Ah, yeah.
Now, see, I know that is located at the con, so it has nothing, other than being a presence at the con. It's not related to the Reed or anybody who puts the con on. But I've been down on Super 7 for a while for various reasons that I don't want to get into, but they did have something that I would have thrown money at them, and I was willing to do so at the time. They had a Creature from the Black Lagoon. And now, if you're of a certain age, you'll remember the Visible Man model, right? When it was clear plastic, and you could see the internal workings of the man, the rib cage, the organs, and the bone structure, all that stuff. Well, the Creature from the Black Lagoon was akin to that, but there's a trend in figures now where you can remove parts of the external body and it will reveal the internal organs, right? Which is awesome. They had a Creature from the Black Lagoon like that. Like, telegraph it right into my heart. Here's my money. And it was $85. So I lined up. I wanted to buy it. I get to the register and I said, I would like a Creature from the Black Lagoon. And they said, you can't buy that here. It's only available online. So I was like, oh, God. Knowing full well that I would have to pay postage, I popped it up online, and the price for it online was $125 before postage. So you're offering something at a con for $85 that you don't even have at the convention, directing someone to go buy it elsewhere, and then it's more money? Like, what? How do you retain customers doing shit like that.
If you're a manufacturer or a publisher or a vendor, how do you not, just for the weekend, for a convention weekend, not offer it cheaper on your website? Obviously, if people aren't at the con, then good for you. You don't get the benefit. But who cares? It's 3 days where you're just offering it at a cheaper price, and then come Monday morning, boom, back to whatever.
Sell it at your booth.
Yep.
Have an attendant
run out to get it.
No, not even that. Have an attendant take your order, confirming that you are at the convention.
Okay.
Free shipping.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
That's a good
it doesn't
call, yeah.
matter if I can't leave with it, but why am I being punished?
Right.
Why am I being punished to pay for shipping because
Exactly.
you didn't bring it?
Oh, and if they said, okay, I got to the register and they said, oh, you know what? It's $125. It's not $85 because you have to order online.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, if I didn't have to pay shipping, I would consider it. But the fact that it's $50 or whatever dollars more, I probably wouldn't buy it.
Right. Super 7's crazy because, like you said, you guys told me, because I wasn't with you at the time, that you were like, have you seen the new... Because for those that don't know, Super 7 is all about nostalgia. So they have figures of... And they've been doing these 3 3/4 G.I. Joe figures, which is still weird to me because Hasbro still makes 3 3/4 G.I. Joe figures on its own. It's super weird, but whatever. And you guys were like, did you see the Cobra flying base, the headquarters? And I'm like, no. And then we looked at it. I went and looked. I mean, it's incredible. Like, it is like because it's the first thing I've seen that's like one of those toys that every kid wanted, like the Flagg, but didn't have. Except it didn't exist when we were kids. This is a new thing.
Yeah.
But then we went and looked at it. It's $495, right? $495.
Yep.
Yeah, and $100 shipping.
I can. That thing at the most would be like $40 to ship.
How light do you think it is?
Super light. It's
Okay.
all. It's hollow
hollow.
composite
I
plastic.
don't know about that because I don't know what kind of plastic they used on it. So
I mean,
it
no
could
more
be
than a few
light.
pounds, though.
No, it can't be more than 20 pounds.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But more power to them. They're obviously selling enough to keep doing this stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so.
I don't. It's a long story that no one cares about. But they came up being the indie, real fan shit only company where it's all about the fans, man. We on the website, which no one knows about, on the message boards, you are chided for overpricing something. If there's a piece of vinyl that you want to sell to members of this forum and you price it $50 higher than it was when it came out, they will gang you and disgrace you, and you won't be able to sell things there anymore. Or next time you do, there will be a lot of eyes on your post. Mm-hmm. So it's all about keeping it real, in quotes. And then they turn into this. Like, I don't understand it.
Well, you understand it because I presume they've gotten exponentially more successful and wealthy.
Oh, they're massive now. Yeah. And they done fans dirty over the years. I won't get into that again. But I had much love for Super 7. Like, they were the thing. And then they just turned into a different thing that seemed to part ways with the original credo. And now they're all about the filling that niche of nostalgia. And they're doing a good job at it. Like, who am I to say? Whatever.
I mean, this is anecdotal, but we did seem to hear as we were kind of parting ways on Saturday with everybody that the vibe was sort of bifurcated. There was a vibe from a lot of people that didn't make as much money as they'd hoped to.
Right.
And then there were some that made a ton of money. And it seemed like the people who made a ton of money were the creators who, either pre-sold or are big enough that they can sell big pieces of published art or big commissions.
Right.
I think Mahmoud needs to teach a masterclass.
Yeah, well,
No,
Mahmoud would be one. But, Mahmoud, again, did probably 30 or so pre-booked commissions. And because he's an absolute pro, now he takes these lists and gets them done like he's supposed to before the show. So everybody always was willing to come back for more or spread the word. So someone like Mahmoud had a great weekend because he's almost like insulated from, like, he's going to have a great weekend no matter where he's at. But a lot of people that are relying more on, like, moving units of trades, selling posters, pins, things like that, I heard did pretty poorly. And part of that is because, I mean, we'll see what the final numbers are when they put them out tomorrow, but it was well under normal attendance. And I think that in terms of all that, like, the worst thing that could have happened for the creators is that Saturday was torrential downpours. And, I mean, there was way fewer people on Saturday than is normal. And normally on a Saturday, we try and avoid the con because the upstairs main floor is literally, you cannot walk.
You can't move.
I mean, it literally is, like, packed and it takes you 50 minutes to get through an aisle. We were up there for a little bit. It was very easy to walk around. I mean, sure, it was crowded, but it wasn't hard to get around places. And then downstairs in Artist Alley is usually jam-packed as well, to the point where you almost get like frenetic because you don't have enough room to sit and talk to an artist because there's people pushing up against you. And it was pretty empty, man. Like, I mean, it was no more crowded on Saturday in Artist Alley than it was Thursday, which is very unusual.
So what's the internal dialogue with someone who has a ticket for the convention on a very specific day, Saturday, let's say?
Yeah.
Do they look out the window and say, it's raining, I don't think I'm going to go? Like, I'm going to eat that $60 or whatever it is and just knock it? That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they're cosplayers, right? And they're like just probably, I mean, they're probably very sad about it, but they're like, well, my costume's going to get ruined, or I can't wear my costume, or I'm not going to be able to lug it, everything. I mean, I'm with you. Like, it's hard to imagine, given that it's a once-a-year event, and for a lot of people, it's like they do one day because that's all they can afford. It's hard to imagine why it would deter you, but it clearly did, right? Like, I mean, like, I'm with you. I wouldn't have thought that many people would have not come, but clearly many people didn't come.
Oh, yeah. The proof is in the pudding. We saw it. The dealer's floor was much easier to navigate Saturday. Probably easier than Friday.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had our dinner with Felix, which will, if you want, it was a pretty low-key dinner, which was great. I mean, we actually had a great, like, probably the most low-key of the dinners,
Yeah.
I mean, really, for the bulk of it, because of the logistics, these are usually, like, big, long tables of people. For the majority of this dinner, it was basically the three of us, Sanford, Green, and Felix at the corner, just chopping it up, talking about life,
Yeah, it got deep
it did.
for a long
really
time.
Deep.
Yeah.
We won't get into all that.
But I think we should mention that just as a token of Felix's generosity, when Felix got there, he was carting a crate of books.
Oh, right.
And I thought, well, maybe he didn't have time.
Because you said Daniel was signing at Midtown, so probably just...
Right.
Yeah, it
right,
came from there.
Yeah.
Felix gave everyone in attendance a copy of the basketball variant cover that Daniel Warren Johnson did and the black and white version for free.
Yeah, so thank you.
He's like, hey, thanks for coming. Love you so much. Here, this is for you. And I looked at it and I was like, I had an inkling what they were going for online, but again, it's not real money. It's potential money if you were the dickhead that would actually turn around a gift and sell it. Right. But whatever. And what was it, $199 a piece yesterday? Yeah. We saw them for like that. That's insane.
Those are unsigned on eBay. Ours are signed.
Ours are signed by DW. I mean, we could get that in a second if we wanted it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It
was just a very nice gesture.
Extremely nice gesture. Yeah. Gobsmacked, right?
Mm-hmm. It was great for me getting to see some people we hadn't seen in a long time. I hadn't seen Nick Pitara probably in 6 or 7 years. And I got to pick up a copy of Axe Wielder John, his new book. He's got some really great news related to that and a sort of ongoing line that he's got going on at Dark Horse soon, which is cool. Hadn't seen Jamal Idle in years. It was nice to catch up with him, even though he's a local guy. It's like, it's weird how you don't run into people.
Yeah.
Got to meet Josh Cassara, who I've been online communicating with for years. He's obviously moved up the rank. He's one of Marvel's top artists these days, but he was a super nice guy.
He was finally able to get some of the takers for the they were being taken, but some of the chances finally for the headshot, the commission for the
right. What Dave was talking about is Cassara had he had a set of like high-end pins, enamel pins that were, and if you bought the pins, it won you a chance for a grab bag that may have won you a original piece that he had pre-drawn. So there were 5 of them, and I bought a set of pins. Didn't win, but like they went the whole first day with no winners.
Oh, so buying the pins and getting...
It was like a Willy Wonka thing.
Right, but if you got the golden ticket, it didn't guarantee you...
No, it did. There were 5 golden tickets.
So if you got a golden ticket, you got a...
Yes.
Oh, see, okay, I thought the way you phrased it was that it seemed like the 5 went into a...
No,
won one.
No.
Oh, that's great.
There were 5 pieces, and I don't know how many...
I think it's like 60.
Okay, yeah, okay, so it's pretty good odds, I guess, but...
Yeah, the pins are really nice.
Very nice.
Except for the storm. But
hilarious.
Yeah.
So that was super cool. Like I said, we met Zoe.
Oh, we got to see what Steggy's working on next.
We did.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Steggy's always on his mind.
He says, you're always on my mind, Ryan.
If you guys leave, I'm doing a show with Steggy.
Jesus.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
For you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The art highlight for me was that, and we've talked about this on the show, Sacrificers is the new Remender book.
Yep.
The plan is for it to go for a long time if the sales are warranted. And Max Fiumara is the artist and co-creator. Max is generally, he's usually at New York Comic Con, excuse me, because he's rep by Mark Hay at Splash Page Art. And I was able to procure some pages from Sacrificers, and it was awesome because they hadn't even been like priced yet. So I got to look through the whole stack of art from issues 1 and 2 and get the pick of the litter, which was awesome. And I'm glad I did. He was making fun of me, like, who cares about pick of the litter? But, like, within the next 24 hours, pretty much everybody we know in the art hustle, like, got pages from the book.
No, I wasn't making fun of you because you got pick of the litter. That I was glad for that fact. I was not making fun of you, but I was finding it very amusing that you were like, I got the first pages from Sacrificers, yo. That was cute. That was, and you know, this is the one instance that I think you undersold this whole thing. You got the first pages from Sacrificers.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's wonderful.
Had a nice, if you all are longtime listeners, you remember Dap and I went to Baltimore Comic Con maybe, like 12 years ago now?
That's been ages.
You just got your promotion, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So I remember waiting in line talking about it. But anyway, so that's when we met Daniel Govar.
Yes.
And we got, that was what...
Because I was reading his, back then DC had webcomics.
Yeah.
And I was reading his, it was an underwater kind of tale, and I really liked his style.
Yeah.
And I figured he would be good for one of your jam pieces.
Yep.
And he did a phenomenal Medusa.
Right, and that was the first time we ever got art from Dan, and we've subsequently gotten a
Many
grip
pieces
of art.
over
I
the
mean, I can't even count how many commissions and...
What's that shirt going on?
What? It's a CM Punk shirt.
It's the trans flag.
Oh, okay.
But the CM Punk.
But right, with the CM Punk logo.
Way to interrupt our story. By the
I'm
way.
sorry, but it's just...
What's that light over there? What's that?
This is real.
It is.
This is the realness.
And so Govar, the first thing I ever got from Govar was this Medusa drawing on my Inhumans jam piece. He started it, and so fast forward 12 years later, the jam piece has been done for many years. But as I want to do, I try and find a colorist at these cons to color a jam that's not fully colored. So I brought the Inhumans jam to this show to have Rochelle Rosenberg color, and she did. But I asked her to leave the Medusa uncolored. And then I brought it to Dan, so all these many years later, it was like full circle. He then colored and painted, because he's a painter for those who don't know. He painted the Medusa and finished the jam off. It was nice. It was like serendipity.
Gorgeous,
It was cosmic.
yes.
It was nice, like karmic. Yeah.
He did a wonderful job. It's beautiful.
And he's living his best life.
Oh, absolutely. He's living his best life thanks to his wife.
Yeah, his wife be doing all right. He's doing all right.
I'm down with
that.
that.
Was one of the things I liked about the show. I felt like most of the people we caught up with had like positive updates about their lives. Like you know, there weren't many where you were like, oh, sorry to hear that, or like, it'll get better soon. It was mostly like, hey man, you know, like maybe I had a couple, but like things are on the upswing, you know, or like things are going great. It was very reaffirming to me.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, that's again anecdotal. I'm sure there were plenty of people in the room that were having downshifts, but I just felt like when we had serious conversations with everybody, like the Whackers, right? Like how happy are the Whack? I mean, how happy are they?
Yes.
They're ebullient in all things in life. Like life's great, their kiddo's great, their marriage is great, like the business is great. Like that was just so great, like beaming, right? You know, like you said, Kyle Stark's beaming. He's saying he's having the best year of his life, which we think, because we keep saying Kyle Starks is one of the best writers of the year, and he seems to agree.
Yes.
You know, Mahmoud's doing great. I always catch up with the Essential Sequential crew, and like Sean Crystal's having one of his best years. Teo Scalera brought his family for the first time ever to the U.S. with him, which was great to see. Like, you know, another thing, it's like we're getting old because all these people, ourselves included, like not going out boozing it all night, like having a nice dinner, going home, like relaxing. Also, everyone's showing up to the con now on time. Like all the artists aren't like,
except for Frank.
Well, okay, well,
yeah,
but I'm saying like I'm talking to like the people that are usually on the grind of these shows. You usually show up on a Saturday and half the place would be empty until noon because people be hungover.
Yep.
Everybody's like at these cons now taking their business seriously. It's great, man. I feel like we're getting grown up and healthy and like living our best lives.
Yes.
Yeah,
great.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Jason repped for Peloton hard.
I wore my Peloton hoodie on Saturday to take care of that business.
Let's do the lunch story.
With
the good one.
Or?
No,
well, yeah. So, we'll run through this. So we made the commitment to try different places for lunch this year.
Yeah, because we thought Houndstooth was gone.
Yeah,
I was happy to just be like, we could skip Houndstooth for a year.
Houndstooth is back for the record, but I guess it's probably under new ownership, would be my guess.
Possibly,
because it looked completely ramshackle.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, we decided there's for those that don't know New York, there's a awesome place just south of the Javits where the con is called Hudson Yards, and it was an urbanization project that took a decade, and it It probably opened maybe 5-6 years ago now, but it's really beautiful architecturally, a bunch of new buildings, and it's like high-end mall. There's a super high-end mall, like ridiculously high-end mall, but new restaurants, convention space. Like, it's just supposed to be an urbanization thing. And so we were like, let's roll over that way instead of going back towards the Midtown and try and find places to eat. We found a place the first day, which is very good. The food was very good.
was great, yeah. Food was phenomenal. Your
20
fish and chips was massive.
$29 glasses of wine was a bit, much.
Yeah.
Glasses. Keep that number in mind for the next day's lunch.
Even for me. But then we ended up at the mall there the next day, and there was a little food court, they had an Italian joint, they had taco joint, a bar, like more of a buffet type of a thing. But like one of those, it's very common in cities, right? These kind of setups. But this one was like a little quasi high end, but it's still ultimately a food court. We had a great lunch that second day, right? And then we liked it so much we decided to go back yesterday for a leisurely lunch.
Because they have plenty to choose from. It's not like we went for the same thing.
And we liked the food, and it wasn't expensive.
Yes.
Yeah. But yesterday was where things got really wacky because we're there doing our thing.
We're there. We're hanging out a little longer because it is raining out. We're in no rush because it is Saturday.
Got a bottle of wine, so we were just chilling.
Wine, right? We're doing that, and then
which hit hard.
Oh yeah.
And then we notice in this food court, like literally next to the buffet, next to the buffet line, dude starts setting up drums.
Yep.
And we're like, what the hell?
Gets the trap all set in.
Yeah. And he's there for a while by himself. So we were like, is dude gonna do like a drum solo? Like, then kid rolls in with a gigantic bass, right? Next thing you know, saxophonist, right? Trumpet. Then dude comes in with a keyboard, all happy as he wants to be, with the gloves on.
Playing keyboard with gloves. It wasn't even cold in there.
He was playing keyboard with black gloves on.
His keyboard.
And did you see how he smiled? He was
very happy.
Anyway,
yeah.
So we realized, like, obviously they were setting up a jazz quintet, and so we're like, all right, well, listen, again, it's raining. We don't have a lot to do at the con. Let's see what this is about. And around 3:00, they started playing jazz, and it was awesome. In the middle of this place, we're having lunch, and then as that's all happening, Vince, who was sitting one week, is like, "Is that Ric Flair?" And Dap and I, of course, like being like, our first reaction was like, oh, "This isn't going to be Ric Flair." Like, what does Vince know from Ric Flair? And we both look over, and damn if the Nature Boy wasn't sitting at the bar with, I presume, his wife,
with his woman,
and his bodyguard
bodyguard behind him.
I mean, and we say having a cocktail. For all I know, he was drinking seltzer, but he was at the bar, hanging out, and we were just like, "What a surreal experience where you're at a mall food court." And a jazz quintet is playing while Ric Flair is having a drink next to him.
Yes. Apology accepted.
Yeah, you recognize the Nature Boy.
Well, he's kind of hard not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
he does cut a profile that's hard to ignore.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, why don't you go up to him and go, woo? But they didn't.
I'm pretty sure Homeboy would have tackled him.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sure
he would have knocked you on your ass.
There, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for as much as he lives off of that reputation, it's got to get tiresome to have people just coming up to you nonstop doing that, right? Even, I'm sure, I mean, he invited it himself with the way but whatever, yeah. So, yeah, pretty surreal, for sure. Got the pancakes. You guys got the pancakes?
Got the pancakes last night. Great at the diner as usual.
Got to spend some QT with my boys last night, which is nice and unusual because we don't usually get to do that because we come home later. So it
was just an overall wonderful experience.
Yeah.
It was one of the best weekends ever.
Yeah. I mean, a couple other minor regrets. Rick Remender was there. I fully intended to stop over. In fact, I DM'd before the show being like, hey, it'd be great to see you. And he's like, yeah, make sure you come by. And then, of course, because that's the way it is, like, I didn't stop by Thursday or Friday thinking, I'll just go by Saturday. And then we went to stop by, and he was already gone for the day. And I don't know if you guys saw, he actually, because he announced he was going to have a big announcement. Did you see it was a big announcement? Like, it was actually a legit, like, you know how a lot of these big announcements were like, oh, whatever. It was a legitimately big announcement.
There were the 2 new books announced.
No, he's signed a bunch of artists to exclusive contracts.
No shit.
Yeah. For Giant Generator, his imprint.
Oh, nice.
But he signed exclusive contracts for, like, Daniel Acuna, there's a whole list, Bengal, a bunch, again, I don't have the
So he's taken the Deadly Class money and inserting it into publishing adventures.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Nice. Well, that's really smart, right?
Yeah.
He'll probably never, I mean, I want to say that, but that kind of windfall.
I can't think of another instance where a creator-owned imprint signed exclusive deals with artists.
No, I can't remember.
Paul Azaceta is on that list.
Wow.
Like, even with Kirkman, right? Like, Skybound is now worth an absolute fortune. It's a juggernaut. It's a massive media company. that Kirkman obviously is the main owner of, but he doesn't run anymore. I mean, he's got like executive team. But I don't even think. I mean, I can't think of. I don't think they have exclusives. I mean, they work with you like DWJ does this stuff, but they're not exclusives. He pays them page rates and stuff, but they're not exclusive. So this is. I don't. I mean, our listeners might. But I can't think of a time when a creator. I mean, because this is under the Image banner, but it's his imprint. It'd be like,
so if he decided to leave Image and go to Dark Horse,
I guess maybe. I mean, like, I don't know if. I guess it's possible, like when Sylvester was doing, like maybe those guys were exclusive to him for. I don't know if that's the case.
Oh, at Homage and
and but point is, I don't think we've seen this in a long time, and it's pretty neat. So
it is. So why don't we strike while the iron's hot, using the fact that you didn't catch up with him at New York Comic Con? Send him a message. Say, hey. Sorry, we didn't meet up. Let's get you on the show. We really want to talk about this because this is like a first thing ever.
Sure.
Yeah, are you doing it right now?
No.
Oh. I mean, I know he's efficient, but I didn't know if he was that efficient.
I will let you finish, bro.
Yeah, done.
So that was a minor regret. A few people we just didn't get, just because of the chaos of the comedy, didn't run into like Raj. Bill Z, didn't get to see Bill Z.
No. Didn't see Frankie, Dillinator.
Oh, right. Dillinator was there?
Yeah,
he's always there. Didn't see him.
We saw Daniel Warren Johnson, but we couldn't get anywhere close to him because of his line.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that.
That first day we saw him, he was busy, head down working.
You're right.
Right, it hurts my heart.
Dinner.
Yeah.
Hurts my heart.
I guess we assumed he'd be at the dinner, but he wasn't at the dinner.
Right. Well, he and Steggy kind of flaked on us.
But to be fair, Steggy wasn't planning on going to dinner. Then he kind of like.
That's not what he said.
No, he very nicely said, "Oh, I'll go since you guys are going." Right. But that was a. That was in the moment.
Was it a platitude? Don't give me platitudes, man.
He was platituding us.
Yes.
Steggy.
Yeah. But no, I mean, but minor thing. I mean, again, I wish I had seen those guys, but we did get to see a ton of people. You know, we got to spend one of the nights, Thursday night, with our friends from the No Apologies crew, which was great. So didn't get to see Gil because he couldn't make it last minute, but overall, I mean, really few, if any, complaints, and the pros far outweigh the cons. No pun intended.
Got to see my aunt. So
I didn't get to see her.
I know you're downstairs.
We met Vince's LCS.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, Dave.
That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
you were talking to the Wachters, and Dave was just like,
oh
yeah, the guy with Well, we'll get into it later, but no, it was just a cool experience.
And I apologize for not posting our hauls. The Patreon site sucks. So when I get home,
but
I'll post the photos. We did take a few photos of the con floor.
Can we even call them hauls? Why don't we just call them Because it's really not that much. It's
the trinkets we brought home.
Yeah, I mean it's something. It's
not the
but
booty that it used to be.
No, we used to post like every day, and it would be like picture.
And that wouldn't have been a bad idea. That wouldn't have been bad. It's just it's frustrating using the Patreon website lately, and we posted the drive to and fro, but when I get home and get situated, and
the Patreon idea of improvements, they must not know the meaning of the word.
I did get a reply, and Homeboy said we take everything what everybody says seriously. I'll kick it up. I can't guarantee anything's going to change, but we're going to hear you. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
Now I will say. I don't know if because I haven't played around yet. I meant to, but as you know, I listen to that wrestling podcast, Voices of Wrestling.
Yep.
And they have a really big Patreon at this point, and they were raving about the Patreon changes because they were talking about how they were able to very easily organize all of the different posts and episodes into buckets now. So there's like channels.
I've seen that.
Right, there's that big deal.
No, I think that's a huge deal because I think for us, I think if you could have a channel that's just all the books a month and a channel with just all the interviews, and like people could literally just like without having.
So that's replacing tags because you could click on a tag and see everything for book of the month.
Slowly, whenever you search by tag, it takes forever.
No, that's what I'm saying. So this new system, you have channels, and so I mean, we have to go in and.
Okay, so that's great for after you make the post. But in creating the post,
making the post, that's where the problem is.
Pain in the ass.
I hear you.
Yeah, they split.
Yeah, I hear you.
The data fields into two screens, which does not make sense at all.
Because you can't copy and like
you can't. You have to input it by hand. I'm not doing it. But whatever.
So that's why there wasn't a ton of Patreon content this weekend aside from the audio.
We'll work around it. As with whenever there's changes to something you use on a daily basis, it takes a long time to accommodate. Those changes.
But
I'm sure we'll find
Slack because we tend to update that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Dan T. We spent a lot of time with Dan T.
We did. Yeah.
He gave us some awesome indie comics as well that he wanted to share with us.
Yeah, one of which you may be hearing about soon.
Oh, nice.
in the 11 o'clock after dark episode because this book is foul, man. It is.
Yeah, the way you were talking about it, definitely.
It's foul. It's really bad. But it's it's one of those things that just lights up my damn life.
The MS Harkness mini that you didn't want. It's cute.
And just to be clear, we did do inter-day and end-of-day recaps each day on the Patreon feed. So if you don't hear a shout out and we did talk to you, or you're wondering who else we met up with, that we do cover it, I think, a lot more comprehensively.
Patrons received, I think, 3 hours? Close to 3 hours?
It was not... Well, no, yesterday was...
Our dogs are coming in here.
Yeah, this is cool. What's happening?
Yesterday was a little... Yesterday's were shorter. But each drive back and forth was a little over 20 minutes, close to a half hour.
Yeah, so I'm getting at least 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Of just free content. Describing or detailing our adventures from the day.
I don't think I've seen Monster since either Heroes or C2.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Monster was cool to see. Yeah, he's got a book.
D.L. Nelson.
Yep.
Saw us over by Barnes and Noble.
Right.
I remember as soon as I saw him, bam.
Yeah.
Was instant recognition. It's like I know this dude.
Nice dude.
Yeah.
He and I hadn't met. He mentioned that I wasn't.
I swear I know him from CGS days.
Probably do.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. New York Comic Con 2023 in the books. Thank you for listening. We will now bid adieu to Jason, and Dap and I are going to pick it up from here. So keep listening.
Honestly, and I said it, and I said it to you guys even when we weren't recording. I've been telling people when they asked me since we've been back, how was the con? It was seriously one of my favorite New York Comic Con weekends. It was just, we saw people we needed to see, we wanted to see. We just, Saturday was enjoyable. Granted, we took a nice long lunch, but the rain kept a lot of people away. So we were able, Tony, you were able to actually, you could have spun around on the dealer floor on Saturday. It wasn't that jam packed. It was insane to see it that way on a Saturday, but
yeah, it was definitely one of those remarkable experiences because it was different from the norm of New York Comic Con, which was very much appreciated. But just imagine how much better it would have been if this ass flap got his butt.
He had a signing on Saturday.
Oh, whatever.
That's right. I was at Pulp Fiction in Long Beach.
Yes, you were. I saw the TikTok.
I would love to be there next year. Next year I have a ton of new books. Like it would make sense to be there. We talked about this before. It is a big expense to go do this thing. Although part of me just wants to do it just go and hang out. Like the way I do San Diego now. I don't set up. I don't have a table. I'll just go. I'll do signings or whatever and panels, and then hang out. So maybe we just set that up and do that. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see
yeah. I have a question specific to Local Man.
Yes.
Wasn't issue 6 supposed to be the Image homage cover issue?
Yeah, it started this month. It came out today.
They're variants, though, not the
right. No, yeah, and it isn't. Okay. How many different covers are there?
There's 4 covers for issue 6 because it's also Walking Dead 20th anniversary month at Image.
Jesus.
So there's a Walking Dead cover, but there's also a Bloodstrike cover.
Wow. I guess I just got the regular cover then. That's all he had left.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Unless he just orders poorly.
No, Dave is usually on the ball. I would guess sales were good because there was about 6 or 7 left on the stands, but it was the cover that he had put in my pull box. So
one in the diner?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's some shops that will just get the A cover. That's why when we did the gold, I did the A cover as the Deathmate cover because I was like, well, I want to make sure this is the one that everybody gets.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, even my shop, House of Secrets, I went to today. I think they only get the A cover. It's just easier for them. But some shops get all of them, and thanks to the Walking Dead one this month, we were up about 1,200 copies.
That's good timing then, considering what you were saying about the the gold.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what that did to you guys.
I mean, that's crazy that Walking Dead is still that big of a draw. Because when I saw that Kirkman was going to do the colored, the remastered, whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, what is this going to sell? People have already read this, but
It's a part of popular culture. You know?
yeah,
Like,
I guess I was wrong.
there's so many more people in the world than not
And now,
in comics.
it's got all those the show's got all the spin-offs.
One of which looks interesting to me.
The Daryl Dixon one.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
That Walking Dead cover, I heard that not all of them did particularly well, but ours sold well.
Of course.
Because it was a nice little boost. And yeah, I think we went pretty hard on it. Like I think because it's like Tim drew the image, and then I did all the design to make it look like it's on a shelf with a bunch of other Walking Deads.
When you talk to Tim, tell him that David and I were coming over to chat him up, but I don't know if he saw us, but when we were going over, he got up and he put his little jacket on. He was going to do something. Apparently he had something to go. And then we went back again and he wasn't there. So we had every intention to go over and talk to Tim at length, but every time we did so, he was either leaving or wasn't there. So just let him know that.
Sure, he appreciates you. I'll let him know that you meant to say hello.
Yes. I mean, Jason did chat with him for a little bit while we were upstairs, but still, it would have been nice.
Yeah.
And since we're still on the con, I'm pushing for TF squared, where Tony and Tana get a table together and set up shop.
Let's get TF cubed. Let's get Trish there.
Okay. Yeah.
TF.
I like it. Yeah.
You save money on signage.
Yes. New imprint right here.
Yeah. TF Comics.
Maybe we can get Tom Fowler in on it too.
There it is.
Boom.
One of these things. I feel like Tom
square
Fowler
cube. Now what is it?
for our shenanigans.
Oh man.
Well, you always need a straight man, and a Serbic straight man.
And I think Tana's doing a cat comic right now too. This really could be something. I think you're putting something.
You're welcome.
TF Comics.
And before I do forget, because I'm sure we will once we wrap up tonight. Next week, because it's the last Wednesday of the month, we will be talking Clementine Book 2 by Tilly Walden.
Yes. Tony, if you've read it, you're welcome to join us.
I have the first one. I haven't read it yet, but I love it.
Bruh.
I'm like, I rush to read a Tilly Walden when it's just her. I think The Walking Dead of it, I'm just like, I'll get to it. I own it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty safe to say that it's the best Walking Dead.
Yeah. I mean, you can go back and listen to us talk about the first book. We all enjoyed it a lot. Listen, maybe it's recency bias, but I could not put this second book down. I started it in the morning and I was done with it by early evening that same day. I mean, we had to leave the house for a bit, and I came back and I just picked it up again. But I think I like it a little bit. I mean, I could revisit the first one just to touch on some things, but I think I like the second book a little more.
Nice.
And you can probably get both of them at cheapgraphicnovels.com.
Bet you can.
Yep. cheapgraphicnovels.com. Omniboo editions, trade paperbacks, manga, all that stuff at a fraction of the cover price. Remember, buy something, a couple of things. You'll get an email saying, thank you for ordering. You're going to reply to that email and say, hey, you know what? Never would have done that if it wasn't for 11 o'clock comics, so thanks. And then Max will send you free shipping on your next order. It's a wonderful deal. Also, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. Audio, video, downloads, vintage fanzines, pages a day, covers. It's just fun. And the community that sprung up out of it is really cool because we gather each and every day on the dedicated Slack channel and talk about everything. Sometimes, like Howard, it's a little on the nasty side, like today. But anyway, It happens. You need to vent once in a while. And these are the people to which I love to vent because they're brothers and sisters, they're family. So patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. In your travels, I've read nothing but Chaykin going into this episode. No, I just didn't want to. I wanted to remember what I had,
I don't blame you.
Forgotten. And I read Blackhawk, the Blood and Iron prestige series that he did. And I believe it was it 88? Yes, it was exactly 1988. And he does not suffer fools in life and suffers them even less on the page because he's a worldly man, and it shows in his work because I have to admit my initial reading all those years ago was not fruitful. I didn't absorb much of the crucial details of the story. Now, reading it at 58 years old, I think it's amazing. Yes, there is a blowjob in it, but it's semi-off panel, so it's not Black Kiss. But there's a lot of violence, a lot of profanity, name-calling, ethnicity that is pointed in some cases and exaggerated in others. But that's Howard, right? I love it. And it's up there with The Shadow and Black Kiss and Stars My Destination is my favorite Chaykin works. Like, how about that? How can you say that? That you look at a person's body of work, like Howard Chaykin, and you try and pick out your favorite things, and there's so much. I didn't even mention American Flagg. There's so much. Right. That I just think he's a maestro, and I was extremely honored to have the chance to talk to him. Hopefully it'll happen again. But yeah, go out and read some Howard Chaykin because he's amazing. And I'm not even touching upon his Hey Kids Comics is great. It's downbeat because a lot of those artists were victimized and exploited by the publisher. But it's real. There's a veracity to it that can only come from someone who actually lived it. So yeah, get out there and read some Howard Chaykin. And if you've never read him before, oh boy, are you in for a treat. You're on a long, wonderful journey. Yes.
Oh boy.
You are not lying.
Yep.
In your travels, since Vince doesn't sound like Vince read this yet. And I'm a little bummed that we're only getting one more issue after this one. But in your travels, continue reading Children of the Vault by Dennis Camp and Luca Maresca and Carlos Lopez on colors. It's the Cable and Bishop show in full effect. They have some great banter back and forth. That it wasn't absent in the previous two issues, but it's a little bit more front and center here. There's a really nice letter that Cable writes to someone that he cares for.
Aww.
And
me? Did he write
yes, to me? Of course.
Nice. Summer is cool.
There's shit's going down in this issue really, but it's it was really start to finish between the covers was just nothing but nonstop. I enjoyed it a lot. Dude,
it just came out today.
Yeah.
Wow. I bought it, but I didn't have a chance to read it. What did you?
You didn't have a chance to read anything yet.
I know, but did you read it in the cars you were driving? How did you read it so quickly?
My wife is going in she's taking an exam, a promotional exam on Saturday. So she spent some time this evening doing some studying, and that gave me an opportunity to read some book.
Wow. She should take an exam every week.
Hey, now.
Hey.
This was, this was a blast. Thanks to Vince for giving me the nudge to read the first issue a couple months back. But 4 issues apparently. It's been a blast. Really looking forward to seeing where where we end up with the next issue. But yeah, in your travels, Children of the Vault.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
In your travels, I'm going to shine a light on, I feel like this is sort of my responsibility. We talked about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and here's another sort of like blink and you might miss it horror comic that is also adorably cartoony, which is just a cause that I stand for now. It's called Dwellings. It's from Oni Press. It's by Jay Stevens. Have you guys talked about this already? Do you know about it?
A couple times.
Oh, well, shit.
Yeah, I've got, well, only because our boy and your boy, Ray, ordered, he did the, it's not, I don't think it's Zoop. What's the other one? Not Kickstarter either, but I know Jay was crowdfunding these. So that's how Ray was getting them. No, it wasn't Indiegogo. But so, and I know that Oni is publishing them, the 3 issues. So I'm getting that the first issue should be, if I don't have it already, it should be in the next box. But yes, I can't wait to get my hands on it finally. I think Jason may have talked about it, but yes. I want to hear more.
Came out today in stores.
Okay.
And it is very thick, so I did not have a chance to read it in between getting home from the shop and jumping on here with you guys and setting up my new hardware. But I'm about halfway through the first one, and it is just a straight-up horror comic that looks like a Harvey comic, basically. Yep. Is that how you describe it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very charming. It's told very confidently in the same way that Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees is confident, and just like they're not dressing it up like it's a kid's comic necessarily. They're just saying like, here's the content, here's what it looks like, and I assume at some point those two things will sort of like come into harsher contrast with one another. Right now, it's obviously you get a pretty harsh contrast whenever like a Richie Rich looking kid gets murdered. So there is that, but I assume that sort of like when we finish it taken as a whole, it'll sort of all fit together. It already sort of does, just the way that they're able to break it into chapters. And I don't know. I don't have a ton to say about it yet, but it is just a very confident, assured read by a creator that knows what they're doing. And just like the drawings are just really beautiful as well. This is a great use of this sort of skill, like where as somebody who draws cartoony, I'm always trying to figure out like, all right, what could I do with that? Like what could I do that hasn't already been done, that I haven't done? I've done, 50 issues of drawing, pony comics, or I've done, like the kids version of a Star Wars comic or whatever. What could I do with this that's something different? And this Jay Stevens found something different, and so I'm excited to follow along and see where they end up with this.
Yes. One of the, let's call it a secondary notion about Dwellings is that the fallout from Harvey Comics is still being felt today. Like back in the day, we would always dismiss Harvey as being the kind of comics you threw into a trade to maybe sweeten the deal or just plain get rid of. But aesthetically, there's been a ripple of the Harvey approach to comics that is still being felt today, and I just find it incredible that the stuff we initially dismissed as kid trash is beloved by so many people. Like, look at Jay Stevens. How many decades removed from Harvey is he? I'm assuming he's younger. Jay's probably in his late 40s. Yeah. So he probably caught the tail end of Harvey.
52.
What is he?
52.
Oh, so he was probably in on Harvey. But I mean, we see a lot of guys doing Harvey pastiches. A lot of times I'll just take a step back and look at my opinions of stuff now as compared to back in the day, and a lot of them have been transformed with age and experience. Harvey was great stuff. It was hot stuff, pun intended. And it just warms my heart that there are people still carrying that visual torch these days, and it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited about this thing. I don't know how long it's going to run, but I do like that for a $10 issue, it's a big
Yeah, it is. It's
meal
good.
of the comic.
But another thing, though, that why hasn't Harvey publications been collected en masse, like in omnibus editions? Dark Horse did some collections, but those things are out of print and ridiculously expensive. I have almost all of them, and tracking down that one, it usually goes for prices that I don't want to pay. But like, why isn't someone again picking up that baton and running with it? Like, we need Harvey Comics reprints.
Who's the guy at IDW that does the American Library of Comics? That seems like a job for him.
Yeah, that would be nice. Or Clover
Clover
Press.
now.
Yeah. It's just silly that this stuff should be available.
Agreed.
Right. Hey, everybody.
You got this.
Yeah. Murder is wonderful. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to this. Once again, thanks to the amazing Howard Chaykin for joining us. Hopefully won't be the first and last time. And you know the drill. Get yourself out to a comic shop, buy some stuff, talk about it online, especially with us. Then listen to our next episode because we'll probably be talking about it. In the meantime, say goodnight. Ooh. The witch drums. It's a little fast for witch drums. And yeah, you lost it at the end. David.
Good
Enthusiastic.
night.
David, do you and Renee watch when the Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer drums on things on TikTok? That's one of my favorites. This guy is out there drumming.
No.
Good old
It doesn't come
Chad.
when you're out with him?
Chad's awesome. I don't think
No,
David
but I'll
could
look
talk
for it.
about the Red
David.
Hot Chili Peppers because then Ray will get all like his panties in a bunch. Which
Ray's problem?
he doesn't. I don't get it. The Chili Peppers are a universal good. They're the Krabby Patty of music.
No, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I did say it, by the way. I don't know.
I heard you. Yeah, I heard you.
Okay.
Nailed it, like always. Once Chad gets into your TikTok algorithm, there's no getting him out. First he was just drumming on like 30 Seconds to Mars, and now he's just drumming on everything. He shows up all the time to drum on songs.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be stricken with a bad case of the Chads.
Yeah, Chad's every which way. I can't.
All right, tell them you love them.
Well, we love you. Jason loves you too. I've been happy to hear how much he loves you lately. I know at first he thought it was a little bit sus, but now he's
Well, if you've noticed, it's in direct proportion to how much he's enjoying comics. When he's not enjoying comics, he hates friggin' everybody.
And I guess when he sort of found equilibrium with how fucked the economy is, he can sort of focus a little bit more on how much he loves you so much.
That's it for that one.